All right. Hello, everyone. It is 6 p.m. on January 21st, and I'll call to order the Concord Carlisle Regional School District to order.
We'll call the Concord School Committee to order.
Great. All right. All right, so for our student update today, that we do not have one. Today was a day off, right? At the school?
Yeah, it was. They had, well, the teachers were here doing professional development.
Right. Which brings us to, sorry, we're moving some things around here.
Public comment.
Public comment. Hi, come on in. All right, so as a reminder, our public comment period will be a period of 20 minutes. This is a meeting in the public and not with the public, so the school committee will not be responding to any comments. If you are in the room and you would like to speak, you can submit a blue form to me, and you'll be called to speak. If you're on Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature. When called to speak, please state your name and address before you speak, and we'll go every other, starting with a comment in the room, and then taking a comment on Zoom. You'll have a time limit of 3 minutes. So I have one in the room, Michael Williams.
Michael Williams. Are the microphones working?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Thank you.
Sure, we can hear you.
Hello?
It's usually just for the Zoom audience. It might not
Okay.
be in
Hear
the
you.
room.
Michael Williams, 1284 Sudbury Road. Just in a matter of weeks, the Ellen Garrison building at Concord Middle School will be filled for the first time with students. The importance of that name and this location solidifies the tie between Concord and Altadena. You may not know that over 130 years ago, Ellen Garrison, our daughter, journeyed to California to find relief from tuberculosis. She ultimately ended up dying there and is buried in Altadena with her sister and her husband. The very cemetery that she's buried in, the Mountain View Cemetery in Altadena, was chronicled just recently with the Altadena fires in the New York Times. Because of the meticulous care given to that cemetery, there was not a lot of fuel debris left, and it served as a fire break and potentially saved southern Altadena. So a group of Concordians at the Finn School and the Robbins House came together mindful of the debt of gratitude this community owes to Altadena for looking out for our daughter and her family. And they also wanted to try and ease the pain that Altadena has gone through as they suffered a grievous loss. They've come together in conjunction with the Altadena Historical Society to have the Altadena Fire Relief Fundraiser, and that's in the little handout I've passed out to you. The fundraiser is going to be February 2nd, 3 p.m. at Ward Hall at the Finn School. And again, it's our way of a sister community to say thank you for what you've done for our daughter, but also to try and ease the pain that they're going through right now. I'd ask you through your personal networks and certainly through the wider Concord School Community Network to pass this information on so that the whole community can participate and help to ease Altadena's pain by something as significant as a contribution, as significant as a participation, or something as simple or as meaningful as our students at the New Ellen Garrison building writing their thoughts, their concerns, their cares, and their hopes to try and ease the pain of the community in Altadena. So I would ask you all to look at yourselves, look at the information, pass it on to your community, use the networks through our school system to help bring our community, to help our sister community 3,000 miles away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
There's one online.
Public comment? We have one online?
And Schaffler.
All right. One question online. Do we have?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
That's okay.
forgot I had a role in that.
It's okay.
Yeah, she should be joining as a panelist now. And you can come off mute and camera to speak.
I'm trying. Okay. I don't know how to see myself. But
Ann,
anyway,
I see you're unmuted, but we
I
can't
just
hear
wanted
you.
to- okay. I'm Ann Schaffler at 41 Mill Run Lane. One of the reasons I'm tuned in tonight is because I'm very concerned about the Metco program.
I don't
At the high
think so. We thought this room was fully functioning today.
You can see her mic's oscillating, meaning she's speaking.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Oh, there's
wait.
Sarah.
She's coming.
All right.
Okay, am I still on? Okay.
All right.
Hello?
We can't hear her.
And we can't hear you. We see you.
Okay. It says I'm here. I'm unmuted
Oh,
on this.
it's not working.
It's not working. That's just off of my computer.
Do you want
Hold on, hold tight for just a second, Ann, okay? We want to hear from you. Just hold on a second.
We don't have any sound off of the Zoom. Yeah, we can't hear it in the room.
Put your computer on, we can hear.
Is it going to echo if I just turn my volume
She
up?
just turns her volume up.
Unmute. I'm trying that again.
Hold on, Ann. We can hear you on Zoom, but we can't hear you in the room. So just give us 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is all we have, right?
Oh, Lordy.
He doesn't know why
Okay.
that's happening.
Okay.
We should be able to hear her through the speakers.
All right. Should I speak?
We can just not talk.
It's going to echo, but just her.
Maybe you can repeat what I'm saying. I don't know.
She's not, she's speaking.
As long as just she talks and it won't echo.
And we're going to have you speak and just listen. We're getting an echo here, but we'll be able to understand what you're saying.
Okay, and if you could pass it on to the room. One of the reasons I'm tuned in tonight in particular, one was to see if anything was being done to Altadena, and I'm really glad to hear about that. And I also was really concerned hearing about Metco at the high school, the problems that there've been. I know there's someone standing in. I think we owe it to all the kids, the Metco kids, and to our community here to try to do something to rectify what shouldn't have happened, which is a break in communication and a break in support. And my children went through Metco programs in Lexington, and they were very positive. They have kept up with their Metco friends, and it's just really disturbing to hear that this community isn't putting more emphasis on making that work and making sure that all the kids can be comfortable and perhaps talk about what has happened amongst themselves. They need some leadership there to be able to talk about it. So I'm really concerned, and I hope that I hear some positive news about tonight, about Metco tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ann. We heard you here in the room. Appreciate you coming on. Okay, so that closes out public comment. So we're going to move into the discussion section of the evening. We actually have a pretty packed agenda, really exciting one. I think this is what a lot of us have been looking forward to. We have a Metco update with Millie here. I'm personally excited. We've never met, so it's nice to meet you or have you here. We also have Andrew here for our DEIB update. We're going to go over our budget in a number of different ways based on the feedback we had in the last meeting, and then also just because it is budget season, we have a lot to cover. We do have a warrant for the region around the amenities building, as well as some updates on the liaison groups I know the campus completion group met this morning. We also have a first draft of the calendar. We're going to go through the graduation policy, IKF, and then we didn't have a chance to do it last meeting, but as we're closing out January, we're also going to review our goals for the year and just make sure we're on track. So with that, Millie, I'd love to have you come up and do the METCO update.
So just some preamble as Millie's making her way up, if that's all right. Millie's here as CEO and president of METCO Inc. So she works in Boston and works with both her board of directors and all 33 METCO districts, all of varying sizes and locations. It's really exciting when Millie can get out to Concord. This is her second trip in 10 days, so we're really grateful for that. She'll probably give you some highlights of the Friday she was here a couple of weeks ago. Through METCO headquarters, Andrew and I are on different levels of meetings, both with other superintendents, with other METCO directors. Often the sitting METCO directors will join into those meetings. She's really the spoke to all things METCO. She's got a really big picture understanding of funding, of the lobbying work that goes on continually, of the status of the program and all of its components. And I think we're really hopeful to have you share some of those highlights. And then we're going to talk at a very high level about METCO with Andrew, because the program still reports to him, but the only parts he's responsible for is the highest level, and the directors do all the rest. So this is all meant to be a conversation and collaborative. Nobody's here to just lecture you, so hopefully you'll be able to really engage with both of them as they come chat with us. Hi, Millie. Welcome back to Concord.
Thank you, Lori. And so nice to meet the people that I haven't met before. I think I've met a good number of you already. And so happy to see our METCO representative here with us and taking on that leadership role here. And nice to meet you, Julie. I want to be respectful of the agenda. I know you said it's very tight, so couple of minutes from me. What is it that you have in mind?
I think we'd love to do like 15, 20 minutes. So
Just-
I think most of it will be of a discussion if you're open to that.
Yeah, the discussion, very open to that, because I also want to make sure that we get to Andrew, because he has a lot of specific things to share that I'll even be able to maybe chime in on some of that work. Oh, there I am. Do I look okay? Lori knows I have to always make a joke or something. It's a long day. We got to be able to last here, you know? So I gotta make sure everything always, you know, it's too tall for me. So hi, everybody there on Zoom and on the audience here as well. So, you know, I definitely want to be open to whatever you want to ask of me today, because I don't get that opportunity to just have an open dialogue. So definitely we should have some time to do that piece. You know, in general, what I do want to say is that I know there have been some concerns that we heard today, and we're just hearing overall, but I have been involved with the Concord METCO program for a very long time. I wouldn't say a very long time, but since I started here, and it's going to be 7 years in a couple of weeks. And this is one of the METCO districts that I'm probably the most engaged in, to the point that the Needham superintendent always tells me, when are you going to spend some time over here? You're always over there at Concord or talking to Lori and Andrew. So definitely spend a lot of time here on a regular, you know, on a very consistent basis, and have been in the midst of all of the work that's been done. And I can tell you that I am very impressed with the work that has happened here. And I want to just set some context on that. I mean, first, when we started meeting some years ago with the students, I was coming here regularly to meet with the students when the first set of issues came up, you know, that we needed to address. And we met for many, many hours over many, many days and months. And I was coming here regularly. We had breakouts. We had all the high school students. We had a facilitator. We had the entire leadership team from administration down to the high school into the METCO program present with our students. And we actually, you know, heard a lot of the recommendations that came out. And the reason I say why I was impressed is because in many districts, it does take some time for a list of requests to actually get fleshed out and implemented fairly quickly on a systematic or program level. And shortly after, you know, those recommendations came, you know, immediately there was a Saturday bus for sports. I don't know of any other district that does that, just for METCO only. don't know of any. There was a separation of the MECO staffing, where before it was one person in charge of the program, and you may remember that it was just Andrew doing both, unlabeled DEI work, because you didn't have the position before, but definitely, he was doing that role plus MECO. And then within a short period of time, the district actually opened up 2 positions for MECO, elevated him to DEI director, now having 3 positions within a district that is looking at issues of race and equity, among other things. But I'm going to focus on the racial part, because that's what MECO, is focused on racial integration. So I thought that was a very big investment, not only on the MECO program, but district-wide. Whenever you have someone in charge of over 100+ students, and how many students do you have here, Lori?
3,200.
No, in MECO.
Oh, 120.
120 in multiple schools, and then a regional high school that belongs to 2 districts. That's pretty challenging, So when we saw the K-8 model director, and then the model of a high school person, and then also with Andrews overseeing, that part, and not losing the historical knowledge of the MECO program, someone who's been there since I started and has gone through, all of the different things and variations of what has happened here, and also throughout our MECO communities, because he was part of the MECO Directors Association, and there's a wealth of knowledge that's shared there in that whole community as well about best practices. So I was personally happy when I heard about that, because we're trying to get more districts to have more leadership, not less. So whenever you have more people paying attention to a program, it's always going to be better. And that was also an investment that happened. I know that your own school committee developed a DEI subcommittee. And you guys developed, I don't know the details of everything in very detail, but I do know that you guys developed the committee, you developed some protocols, you developed, a whole plan that I know that Andrew's going to give an update on that. And that was very impressive, too. I mean, we just had a leadership retreat at Gillette Stadium with all of our leaders. About 100 of our leaders went, all superintendents and MECO directors. And this was one of the examples that we used. And Lori presented. And I can tell you that after people presented, we had like maybe 5 or 6 best practices, Concord being one of them. And once after we presented, people broke into groups to kind of do a round table discussion. I mean, I just kind of round robin and go around the room and ask more details. And Laurie's group was so packed. It was like everybody wanted to find out about the QR code, the reporting mechanism, how is that working? Just giving you some examples of things that I have noticed that I've appreciated. I know that when an incident happened last year with the bus in the elementary school level, there was an email that went out right away, to at least acknowledge, and I know we can't talk about whatever happens in HR, but things were addressed. We don't know the details of all of that, but I know that a letter went out immediately to address it. And I know that when I saw that letter, I reached out to Lori immediately, and I said, wow, I don't see that many superintendents immediately address an entire school system over something that actually, that actually happens, or an entire program. When I've gone to some districts and asked them, hey, can you acknowledge what happened? Well, we try to keep it just within the people that it happened. We don't need to tell everybody else about it, but she's been very vocal about whenever we need to address something as an entire school or as an entire program. So, this is not to say to you that everything is perfect, and it's not in any community. In no community. I mean, we developed a MECO 2.0 initiative that I'm happy to share with you after today. We have the entire results of that assessment that we did systemically across all of our districts. We developed 13 commitments for achieving excellence in school integration. And we're trying to ensure that all of our districts are moving in some of those buckets, not in all 13 because it's not realistic, but pick an area, try to really do a few years in that area and become a best practice, and then pick up another area. And that's what our goal is that every district is always taking something on from those 13 commitments, because it took us 2 years to develop it, and we had leadership on that committee, and we hired a firm from Washington, D.C. to develop this blueprint for what does it mean to be a MECO district, not a MECO program, a MECO district. you know. We also, the opening of 2 seats here for the MECO, for the school committee is also something that happened shortly, you know, after a lot of people, you know, were saying that list of things that they wanted to happen. The kids asked for a MECO room, they got it. We got 2 seats, not 1. So I think we also have to look at celebrating our wins, you know, and celebrating not just our wins, but just the progress that we've made along the way, knowing that, okay, what else do we have to do better? They've acknowledged that, you know, we had a research that just came out, and I don't know if you've seen it, but also something that I can send to you after this, but the MECO research that just came out, and this past year from Professor Elizabeth Sattre from Tufts University, professor of economics, independent research, nothing to do with us. She had to get permissions to get data, but it was her research. And matter of fact, it's gonna come in my newsletter tomorrow, that if you don't get that newsletter, you should sign up because you're leadership. Basically, she just got a President Biden presidential award for the MECO research. And it did show that it followed 20 years worth of students that applied to MECO and got in, and applied to MECO and didn't get in. And the data did show that our students are doing overall in all categories better than those who didn't get in. But then when you look at the suburban comparison, there's the things that you've been hearing about, that there's still some gaps when it comes to racial equity that we need to close. We have reached some closing gaps from the Boston students, and that's already documented. But we need to do more to just close the gaps within all of our districts. And that's what I'm asking of all of our superintendents. Can we look at that data? We now have it. You know, how can we have more targeted programming and ensure that we are, you know, that we are addressing those gaps? Because, you know, all of our scores affect, all scores affect the schools, including that one of our own MECO students, which are fully enrolled in your program. So I'm just trying to go from my head because I don't usually speak from notes. So I'm going just from all the things that I can, you know, that I remember. I was here 2 weeks ago and I talked to the students, and they were all very happy. I mean, so this was the ambassadors. It was a conference room full of students. They were happy. They were actually telling me that they loved that their school leader and their guidance and their MECO, you know, director was pushing them to take AP and honors classes. They were actually, you know, they actually get feedback from their students to then talk to the principal, you know, periodically every couple of months. They also said that they were really happy with the current inter-MECO director because of over communication. That's exactly what they told me, and I put that in my story on my MMM. MMM means Millie's MECO midweek message. I love acronyms. And they actually told me that. They said, you know, I appreciate that, you know, we're always celebrating our students in this weekly newsletter. We're highlighting a student that needs to be highlighted. We're celebrating each other's birthdays. We're introducing a student that other people don't know. So, you know, I have seen a lot of progress in all of those areas, but I know that we have to have, you know, we have to do more on the academic parts, and then how do we deal with that, you know, with systemically addressing like the racial incidents or trainings. And I know that Concord is part of IDEAS, and you guys have done a lot of training around that, and also that reporting mechanism. How do we use that feedback to really kind of, you know, bring about, you know, some real impressive systemic work that we can all then replicate, because we are looking at all of our districts to be examples, but it almost feels like we're on a reset button after George Floyd to like kind of really look and take an intentional look around this. We've also given out many grants for racial equity work, and Concord has always received those grants to either bring professional development or to do very targeted programming for the district. And I'm sure that Andrew's going to talk about how those funds have been used during the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So those are my mental verbal updates, but I'm happy to, like, you know, reflect on more or answer any questions.
Yeah, that's great. Well, first of all, thank you. That was wonderful. I have some questions, but I'd rather take some from anyone around the table. If anyone has any thoughts, questions, comments.
Yes.
One of the things that I think is really challenging for us is we're so isolated in our own district, right? And we don't have a lot of, as school committee members, I mean, like interaction with other MECO districts to share sort of best practices. So given that you're here, you know, I know for example, last year we were lucky to have MECO Advocacy Day in Concord. So Aisha spoke, I went, and I noticed that in those, in the speeches given by a lot of the other folks there from different districts, a lot of what they were advocating for were things that we've done. And again, we are committed collectively to putting real significant financial resources behind everything that we've articulated, and specifically Andrew's articulated in his specific DEIB plan. But what I'm curious about is like, and you know what we've done, you've highlighted it, like what are we missing? Like do you have like one or two shining examples from some other districts that you think are really successful that other MECO districts should be adopting because you've yielded tangible success?
You know, the tangible successes around MECO are all starting to, I think, be more documented now because of all of the ISOM programs like this. You know, historically, the MECO program has kind of like existed. I think the examples, I'm not sitting here to preach to the choir to boost you guys up, but I use this district all the time for examples, like the Saturday buses, the two directors, the ambassadors, meeting with the leadership at the high school on a regular basis. You know, all of those things that I mentioned, like that's not happening everywhere. What I would say, what could happen at all districts, here included, is the whole academic piece. Absolutely, like a targeted approach at looking at the data. What is the data saying? How do we put some resources around, ensuring that that's happening, and how do we do more professional development for our teachers and our educators and look at our curriculum? But that's systemically what I say, literally across the board. I mean, those are the areas that are so large and so huge that it takes, like a big systemic approach over a period of time, with a lot of intentionality to do that. But I think now that we have the data to see where our students are scoring in comparison to the suburban students, can we look at that and do something about that data specifically? For example, I can tell you that Reading is actually investing some of the money that we give away to a literacy program. But you guys are doing something around that because I'm one of your speakers coming up for that. But they're actually they're hiring a company to come in and work with the MECO students in first grade and give them that intentionality of that support for X amount of months, and then seeing if their literacy level goes up. In other districts, when the bus arrives early, they're turning it into a tutorial. So they're asking for, this actually is happening in Sherman. They're actually hired on a stipend level, some of the regular teachers to just that half hour when they arrive early on the elementary school level, can they actually go and have some support around homework support. In Lincoln Sudbury, they have like a math cafe. So when the bus drops off, people are there hanging out and just like there's math teachers available to kind of support in that. I think you guys do the calculus project here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I love the calculus project. It's one of my favorite projects out there because I go to Brookline. My daughter goes to Brookline, and I don't know how you guys have it here, but there is very, very, very targeted with a classroom, with teachers, with summer programming. And every time I turn around, they're like pushing my daughter, to like take advanced courses, to not, she just told me today I need to be at school by 7:30 because my calculus, teacher from last year still won't let me go, and she needs to prepare me for midterms. So I don't know how that's running here, but those are some examples. But I would say let's focus on the academic pieces, and let's focus on more professional developments, because it's not because whatever's happening racially is for a couple of things. One, racism exists, and we're not ever going to get rid of it, unfortunately. Look at what's happening in our nation now. It comes from people's homes too, when you're dealing with thousands of students and you don't know what beliefs people have at their own homes, and then come over here and say an inappropriate comment. And sometimes teachers just don't know any better yet because they haven't been trained. We're talking, Lori sits in several committees at the superintendent level at Massachusetts and on DESE, and there's even the training programs for teachers that don't even train around equity. And I don't know how much you've looked at your curriculum to make sure that your curriculum is also, it's also inclusive. Like for example, we used some of the MECO grant money 2 years ago in Brookline, and we actually, I say we, that's my district, but it is our MECO money that I help to advocate. So it's all we, everything's we. So basically, they hired an external firm to look at their history curriculum, their social studies curriculum, at the entire district. And because I remember that I had a complaint because my daughter had an assignment that made her cry because she had to defend slavery. So that was actually, but the assignment was written. It was actually in the curriculum, but also teachers should know better. Like, okay, like use your common sense. Maybe we don't use that anymore. So, that's another example. So I hope I gave you a few examples. Like in that, I don't know if you guys already are targeting those things. You probably are in some way or another, but those are some of the things that I would really like to see happen.
That's great.
Teacher training and academic closing gaps in a deeper way that you can follow and track.
That's great. We have about 5 more minutes, and then Millie, if you're willing, I'd love for you to stick around for Andrew, because one of the things that we're going to do tonight is the comparing and contrasting that you started to do with Reading, with Lincoln Sudbury. That's actually some of the questions that I had, and that's what we're going to be looking at the budget as well to say, these are the investments that we've made. Can we make them differently? Still keep them within investments in METCO, but if there's things that are happening in other districts, can we move some things around through, a discussion of looking at things? But does anyone have any other questions? We have time for maybe, go ahead, Cynthia.
So my experience a long time ago, some of my colleagues had kids in the system. We had many more METCO students here, and we had them spread throughout our elementary schools. Now we have them only at one elementary school. I think that's already resulted in a different experience because 2 of our elementary schools don't have METCO students in them. It seems to me that enrollment is important, that there's sort of probably a number in your mind, 5%. I look at Weston and it's over 7% METCO students. They're a smaller school, a smaller district. Lincoln also has
Lincoln has the largest percentage-wise, but they're a small district, but that's,
There's one big thing about those 2 districts. They're
Yes.
close to Boston, right, closer than we are. So I think that's a factor, right, in how much.
Well, Weston and Lincoln are not considered to be close for our parents.
Well, I know somebody, they say they just jump on the pike and get to Weston.
Okay.
So they have that extra. Anyway, it seems like it's closer for them. I don't know.
But are you asking the question about enrollment?
Yes.
Yes, so the enrollment question, so two things. You asked me, the first part of your question was about
What
them
do you
being,
think of the percentage of METCO students that makes it successful? And I feel like we're low in our percentage of METCO students right now. We're thinking around.
well, the racial imbalance is supposed to be a lot more higher percentage than that to achieve racial imbalance, and I mean at every community across the state of Massachusetts. So we're actually gonna we're gonna have a legislative briefing next month, and we're having someone come and speak about the state of segregation in our in Massachusetts, which is which is actually, it's happening all across our state. So I don't have necessarily a percentage number because of a couple of reasons. One is that historically, the MECO program is being funded by your kind of historical real numbers from before my time. And because we are state funded, once you begin to actually increase that, we will need to find more money to at least give you the per pupil that we reimburse, which is about $8,000. And then you also get Chapter 70 money as well that goes directly to the school district. So when we talk about expansion, I have to take that conversation very carefully because other districts are not necessarily ready for that discussion because that means we have to spread the money even wider.
Okay.
But what I've done before is find out which school districts want to expand because you have the available seats, and then I use that for a lobbying request. For example, I was successful working with our lobbyists a couple of years ago with the legislators to increase enrollment in Reading, in Linfield, and in Westwood. Trying to go through my head of so many districts, but they went through the school committee, they requested it, they got approved, they identified where the things were, and then we had a good year for funding, and we put it in the actual legislative ask. We said we want to increase MECO by 80 seats in these communities. So if we wanted to look at that here, we certainly can do that, and then begin to craft a legislative ask around that. But we have to involve DESI, we have to involve the legislators and the whole MECO community around that. But we have done it once since I've been here, and we haven't done expansion in decades. But that particular year, I was like, let me try it out and let me see if we can make it happen, and we did. That's a one-time thing. And in terms of what you said about, did you have a concern about everybody being in one district, in one school versus being in another?
Well, I personally think we had a more successful program, but we need more kids. We had more kids then.
So
We couldn't split 8 kids amongst 3 schools.
Right, and actually what's happening around that too is that a few districts actually moved to you guys' model. So it's happening right now, like literally right now, Lexington.
Wellesley and Lexington are both doing it.
Wellesley and Lexington just made the whole approval on that, and they spent a year looking at, at the data, and because when you spread a small amount of kids so thinly, it's not good for anybody. So I've been going back and forth on how I feel about that, because I feel I can see both ways, and I like both ways. I would love to have a MECO students, not a MECO student, students in every school, so that the entire community can benefit. Because once you have the whole MECO program, it's true, then you have an eye from the MECO, you have an eye from the leadership, you might do more cultural celebrations, more PDs, because you got to prepare for that whole inclusion. But I also don't want to spread it so thin that then now this kid is going to feel a certain kind of way. I mean, when my daughter got into Brookline, she was only one of 2 students in a school of 800 that got in. So you can imagine that piece. It was pretty insignificant. I was glad I got in. I wasn't a MECO CEO yet. I was in a whole different agency working. So I was all before all this policy stuff, because she's now, I've been on the job 7 years, and she's now in a junior. So I like to say that I don't like people think that I had favoritism there or I chose. But it was only 2 people. And it was 5 grades of kindergarten, 5 classes, because Brookline was huge that year, and there was only 2. So I think I like to discuss both and see how we can actually, achieve that.
Thank you.
That's great.
Last one.
Yeah, go
I have
ahead.
a real quick question. So we had worked, and I think 4 of us, I think, were on the committee when we put our school committee reps on, and we had talked to other committees that had school committee reps, and at the time, we were number 4. How many of your MECO communities have school committee reps?
Not many, like not even 1/3.
Okay,
So
so
it's-
it's probably gone beyond the 4.
Yes, gone beyond the 4. Wesley just picked it up.
Okay.
Bedford just picked it up. So the usual districts that are all trying to do, do these kind of right moves are moving in that direction. But in the last couple of years, it was Wellesley and it was Bedford that opened up a seat.
Okay.
Great.
Great.
Any final comments, anyone?
Well, I just want to say, I don't, I see both sides, but having all of the MECO kids at one elementary school,
Yeah.
I hate that idea. I just think that it does a disservice to Concord, because sometimes, it's shown at the middle school, and we have issues that have risen at the middle school because, it's the first time some of these kids are interacting with kids of color.
Yeah.
Which, and it's sad, but, so I just think that having all the MECO kids at one school, it does a disservice to Concord as a whole, because they're not getting the same experience. So
Yeah.
I would love to see MECO kids in all of the elementary schools.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want that in all of, we have 190 schools within the 33 MECO districts. I would love to see them in all of them. And now that some people started to move away, I got really concerned about that. But I understand the logic when and I can't, interfere too much with HR matters and space matters, because everybody knows their district better. But what they did justify to me was like, oh, now I can have more staffing for our MECO students. Like, for example, you have LaToya in the elementary school, and she's now doing a lunch group where she got a special curriculum from a Black author on coloring books, and she uses her lunch clubs to actually use those coloring books to see people that look like them, to talk about future career options. The kids are loving it. They're saying, that person looks like me. I can see myself in that pathway. So that's a win right there. Like, if you would have to be everywhere, when I see see people everywhere. Like, you can't even find the medical staff sometimes when they're spread in too many schools. Let me just say that when I've seen it in other districts, like, well, which day are they supposed to be here? Well, now they told me they're over there, but now, I know I had a principal that told me I really want my own medical person here because then they can be in IEP meetings, they could be at lunch groups, they could be at report cards, at parent nights. So there's a catch to everything, and that catch is staffing. And also how the person feels. If you have a person dedicated to supporting you, it goes a long way. Like, Brookline is big, so my daughter has a specific medical person there. And if it wasn't for that medical person, I don't know what we would do. But imagine if they had to split themselves in a high school of 2,000 people. Like, my kid would just be a number. But they have a bigger budget, they have a bigger program, they have 300 students, therefore they have more staffing. So I think the staffing part, justification of it, and the PD to that particular school, like in Cohasset, for example, they use one of our MECO grants to train the entire school on what's the thing that I'm doing? Restorative justice. Yeah. So that was much more doable because it was one whole school, so they can grab all their educators to get trained on that, versus if you spread it thin and I get one person from every school, what is one person gonna do?
Yeah. Well, it's good feedback, and I think that's why it's a great comment, Aisha. I think when we go through the budget, and it's going to be ongoing, we're not going to solve it tonight, but I think we can start looking into it and seeing what we can do. Millie, thank you.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of you for approving All Matters MECO, for supporting Lori and Andrew in this work, for allowing, two seats here for our MECO parents to have a voice, and for what you do in terms of the budget decisions that you make. I am very aware of the budgetary decisions that you make that benefit our program above and beyond what the MECO grant provides, and it truly is impressive. In some other communities I hear, this is the MECO grant has been exhausted, there's not anything else left, and there's anything else that we can do, and I'm like, that is not what the MECO grant or program is supposed to be. We fill empty seats with diverse students and give you diverse staff and give you a marginal grant, because it's called a marginal seat program. And then once you made a commitment to join the MECO program, you have to understand that that commitment is all the way. It is not just as far as the dollar goes or as far as the grant. You're a MECO district for a reason. In most communities, people pay to bring diversity in. As you know, in most, not communities, in some programs, they'll pay somebody, like I'll pay if we can get a person here. We give you some money, we don't give you all the money, and we are aware of that. But a true MECO district is one that doesn't go, nickel and dime and say the MECO grant has been exhausted. And you guys have shown over and over again, especially on your transportation costs, that you really, in your DEI efforts here, splitting that and adding 2 more people that you really care about this, and that hasn't gone unnoticed, at least by me. Just want to let you know that.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thanks for driving out.
Thank you.
No problem. I will be here till the end.
Okay, great. You might regret that.
Well, and dish.
Yeah, and dish, yeah.
At 9, 10 o'clock, let me know. Release me, please.
As Andrew comes up, I just want to note our building level MECO leaders are here, either online or in person. Solange Benjamin's here in the room from Alcott, our coordinator. Andre Thomas, our coordinator from the middle schools, online. And our interim director, Mulanthi Fernando, from the high schools, also online. So we appreciate their time tonight. I think they're here to listen and support, but we're really glad they're available.
That's great. Thank you and welcome. Nice to see you.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey. Hi.
Goes it?
So Andrew, just to set the stage for everyone, that we got the documents, a good amount of information, so thank you so much. I know we're going to really focus on maybe the 3 to 5 key things, what you think is working, and anything you want to highlight. So probably about the same, maybe 15 minutes or so, if that's all right, including Q&A.
Absolutely. So yeah, definitely. Good evening, everyone. Folks online, good evening. My name is Andrew Nyamicha. I am the director of DEIB for Concord Public Schools in Concord Carlisle. Pleasure to be here with you all. So I think first, shout out to Millie. She's great, and a hard act, a difficult act to follow.
Got the data, Andy. Got the data.
But of course, thanks, Millie. I think it's important that, I definitely acknowledge here today that, here in Massachusetts, particularly in public education, DEIB efforts are 100% supported by DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. They issued their educational vision back in June of 2024. And I just want to start by reading that educational vision, because I don't know if many people have taken the time to look at it. It pretty much summarizes the work that I do and the work that our admin team and our teachers and staff and you all as school committee members are striving towards. So DESE's educational vision states that all students in Massachusetts, particularly students from historically underserved groups and communities, will have equitable opportunities to excel in all content areas across all grades. Culturally and linguistically sustaining classroom and school practices will support students to thrive by creating affirming environments where students have a sense of belonging, engage in deeper learning, and are held to high expectations with targeted support. And it's important to start here because, again, this vision is what our district strives towards every single day. And I see that in practice every single day across all of our schools. And, particularly with the limited time that I have, and I hope folks really take a moment to look at the 50 slides that I've put together, and I promise you it doesn't capture everything that we do, but at a high level, it captures a lot of the great work that we're doing across our schools. And so for today, I'm really just gonna focus on my goals. And within each goal, I am going to share an example of how this work has evolved in practice. And so with each goal, I'm also gonna pause and then have a conversation or a question. That way we can just sort of balance the time. So, one of my first goals this year, and of course, I think it's important to start with this, is really collaborating with our admin team, our teachers, our support staff to support the needs of our students, even our employees, and of course, our families. This work does not get sustained over the years that I've been here in silo. I do not work in silo. I collaborate with every single stakeholder in this district, and that's just the expectation that Dr. Hunter sets, and that's the work that our admin team sort of follows. And so within this goal, one of the great work that we're doing, and I'm so glad to partner in this work with Shelley Chin, our interim assistant superintendent of teaching and learning, is reviewing the diverse literature that we adopt in our curriculum. We now have a 14-member, and that's been sustained over the years, over the last 3 years actually. We have a 14-member sort of team comprising of educators across all of our district, K through 12. And, what we do is we have teachers who bring to the committee diverse books that they really hope to adopt in the classroom, books that represent the intersecting identities that our students have and their lived experiences, right? And so these are books that are meaningful, not just for the teacher, but also really representative of the students that are in front of them. And so, this year we have worked very closely together, Shelley and I, and also partnered with Dr. Paula Martin, who is an ideas instructor. She actually runs our implicit bias training course for many of our educators every year. And Dr. Martin, myself, and Shelley, we, together help facilitate this committee. And so that work, continues. And I know in the coming months, Shelley and I and the committee are hoping to really ensure that the work that we're doing internally is public facing, so folks have a better understanding of what we do within this cultural competency and literature committee. And again, that's K through 12. So I'll pause there because, I can go on and on about all the great work we do there in terms of collaboration, but I wanted to pause there. If there are any questions, comments, then I'll keep going.
I have one question. I think for me, when I went through not only the pre-read that you sent over, but also just the discussions that we've had since I came over here to the region, there is an incredible amount of professional development around DEIB. I've been really impressed with how much is invested in it. And then I look at some of the activities in the community. Like I'm going to go to the anxiety discussion tomorrow, mental health discussion tomorrow night at the high school. There seems to be actually a huge focus on DEIB. Do you have a sense of the percentage of professional development and activities that is either completely focused on DEIB or has a component of it?
Yeah. So I'll skip ahead because I'm gonna answer, my third goal, and that's focused on PD. So let me start by saying that, in many school districts, it's very difficult to offer PD to support staff. Oftentimes, support staff, our tutors, they're just forgotten, right? And, when we think about who within a school district that students interface with, bus drivers, right? Cafeteria staff, even custodial staff, right? And so what we have done, at least here in Concord, is that we have begun to provide professional development for our support staff as well. And the fabulous thing is over the last 2 years, and Millie sort of referenced this, I have written a grant to METCO Inc. through their Racial Equity Integration, REI, grant program. And we have received $20,000 for the last 2 years to support specifically professional development for our support staff. And they go through an implicit bias training. It's a half-day professional development program that is facilitated by IDEAS. They sent us anywhere from 4 to 6 facilitators. And over the years, the last 2 years, we have had, this year we had 63 support staff attend. Last year, the first time we did it, we had over 100, right? And so, again, bus drivers, custodial staff, admin assistants, tutors, right, are offered that. But let me give you some numbers. Last year, 23-24 school year, we provided 16 professional development opportunities for our educators. 9 of those PD offerings were focused on DEIB. And we saw a 51% participation rate just for the DEIB professional development. This year, we took a different approach where we worked very collaboratively with our department chairs, our educators, to really design professional development that was focused more so within departments, and also some work that happened over the summer, particularly at the high school, where each department came up with their own equity goal, right? And then with very concrete, actionable steps to achieve those goals. And so taking that different approach, different professional development approach, we offered 32 professional development opportunities, largely facilitated by our educators for their colleagues. And within that 32, 14 of those professional development offerings were DEIB focused, okay? And we saw an 82% participation rate. And we currently have a professional development offering happening right now through IDEAS, and it's our yearly annual sort of implicit bias training for our faculty, and that's actually happening, started this week. And so, what I gather is that 2 things. When Shelley started in the fall, rather than the summer, one of the first things we did was we surveyed our faculty to say, hey, what do you think is most important to you when it comes to professional development? And in that data, cultural competency was ranked one of the highest, right? So we know what our educators need, right? And so I think that helped us as an admin team understand that we need to put more emphasis in the PD, hence why you see that jump, right, in numbers in comparison to last year in terms of those DEIB offerings. And so, I can offer, and I think between Shelley and I, we can give you a document that outlines all the professional development opportunities we offered this year. But I did reference many of them are actually referenced in my slides.
Yep.
And so it's great. It's great that our faculty fully understand that this work, the only way this work is going to be effective for them is us providing them professional development opportunities that are practical and that they can walk away with real concrete tools and skills to implement in their teaching practice. And I think we are seeing the benefits of that. If this was a discussion about culturally responsive practices. Shelley and I could probably give you examples after examples of how that is being, how that work is evolving for each department, for each teachers, whether it's our faculty member or support staff. So, you know, the work around professional development is important, and I think when you look at our DEIB strategic plan and even our district-wide strategic plan, it's one of the pillars in our strategic plan. So great work happening there, and it continues.
Andrew, just to clarify on the PD opportunities for both last year and this year, are those K to 12, or are they targeted at the high school?
Yeah, so no. So some of the PD, we kind of, again, we took not only a departmental approach, but each school also created their own professional development offerings. And so there are a set number of PD that were specific to high school, a number of PD specific to the middle school, and a set number of PD specific to the
Figured, I just wanted to clarify.
Yep. And we can, again, you know, we can share that information afterwards.
Go ahead, Alexa.
You know, Millie focused and thought one of the things that we should focus on is the academic piece and whatnot. So it looks like we're making nice gains in MCAS scores, but where we're sort of lagging behind is participation in honors level and AP level classes. And, you know, one of the things that I wonder, and this is not necessarily a conversation just for you, but for everybody, is, you know, and I am totally biased here insofar as I am like kind of a rotten math student, for example. So I think, like, is there an opportunity, because I think, again, I'm biased. Math, I think, is very hard. Science is really hard. Is there an opportunity that we should be discussing from an equity perspective about expanding our honors offerings in the humanities, which, again, not to diminish that subject matter, but it is a little bit more subjective.
So I'm going to stop you because those are conversations we're having, but they're not prime time ready yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just
We're having those
thinking about
conversations.
it.
We're definitely having those
Okay.
conversations.
That's something that I would personally
Yep,
love to
we're definitely having those conversations.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Well,
You're totally right.
Yeah, I have some more questions.
And I guess, like, when I was looking at some of the MCAS data, I have to say, your slides, exceptional. Well, I loved them. I'm like, literally anything that I want to know is in these slides. I mean, seriously. And I have not found that in other districts, because I do poke around. Sometimes I think Andrew makes fun of me about where I poke around and look at things, but I haven't seen, sometimes, I haven't seen it in other districts. Like, so, like, it's really, it's all there. And I think that that's what we have to remember. Like, we are doing some really great things here, and your work and your efforts are definitely appreciated. I mean, I think back to that DEI subcommittee. It was called the DEI subcommittee, but you were adamant about putting the B into it. We are one of the only districts that has that B into it, because belonging is really in the middle of that. And I think that that is probably, you know, the best thing that you have brought to us. And I thank you for that, because it really does help us to focus as a committee, and it focuses on all students. But, you know, I went off on a tangent for a minute. I was actually going to talk about English, because I do think that honors at the high school, honors English at the high school, we've seen significant growth in MCAS, and how can we not say that, well, actually, they haven't taken it yet, have they? Have they taken it yet?
Yeah, but they had it last year.
They had it last year. They had it last
course,
year. Yeah, they did have it last year. So we've seen an impact already on programming that has changed, and that has been under your leadership. So I just wanted to, you know, focus on that, and really, when you look at all of these slides, we can see your goals in there. You see the DEI strategic plan, and we've been there from the beginning. I mean, I feel like I've known you since you were MEDCO director, so it's been a while. But I think we have to remember that we have a lot of great things happening here, and sometimes it's not the story that we're always putting out there front and center on everything, because we just do it as part of who we are.
Exactly, and I'll steal something from Dr. Khalees Warnham and Dr. Kara Blake when they were here doing their equity audit, their racial equity audit. And one of the recommendations that's not formally documented in their findings, but they left here saying, we've got to do more in just marketing. You know, marketing, all the great, you know, communicating and marketing all the great work that we do, because we do a lot.
Yeah.
So that's actually what I was going to say. So one of the things, we've obviously been having a very public discussion about a lot of things that are very charged. And I think what sits with me is what we talked about in the last meeting where like all of us, not just us from the school committee, I think everyone in this room wants to see either the 0% or the 100%, meaning 100% of kids feel like they belong, 0% of kids are contemplating suicide or any of those other horrible things. We know we're not going to get there, just like Millie said, we're never going to eradicate racism, even though we all want to. So what I'm trying to figure out is, like, I'm an impact person. I want to know what is going to have the biggest impact. So we're running out of time. I knew this would happen. But I think for you, like Tracy said, I went through this. There's a lot of stuff. I have questions, but I think for me, what I would love to know is, out of everything that you're doing, what is having the most impact on what you said at that opening statement about that sense of belonging? Because you're doing everything. You're doing sense of belonging for race, for gender, for a number of different things. So wearing your DEIB hat, where are you seeing the biggest impact? Like, what programs, what things are you seeing?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
I'm seeing wins across the board. I will focus on what's happening this year, and I think it started last year. Dr. Hunter, myself, the admin team, we really started to look at academic achievement, and really sort of deconstructing sort of the systems and practices that have sort of perpetuated this underrepresentation of our subgroups, right, of students. We're talking students of color, low-income students, students with disabilities, et cetera. And when you sort of step back and look at it from a 50,000-foot view, you begin to understand that there are some things we are just doing that just prevent kids from accessing honors level, AP, right? And when we really got courageous to have the conversations, we realized we just have to be bold in terms of just dismantling those practices, those gatekeeping practices that are keeping students behind. And one of the markers that it sort of empowered me, and I did ask Brian Miller, co-principal at the high school, to share this data. When we look at the AP exam pass rate by subgroup, Black students, 85.7% pass rate. Hispanic students, 97% pass rate. Low-income students, 89.3% pass rate. Okay, and that is data looking at, that is historical data, okay? And the conclusion that I arrived at was, and if Brian Miller was here and Katie Stahl was here, they would agree that when we provide access for these students, particularly in AP, they do well when they take these exams, right? Despite the historical data that shows that there is a massive underrepresentation of these students at this level of courses, when we provide them access and the supports that they need, they do well.
They rise.
They rise, right, they rise to the occasion. And so if we can have that mindset, that growth mindset for every child in this district, and begin to point the fingers at ourselves and just be honest about what we have done to perpetuate some of these barriers for our kids, we can then begin to say, okay, you know what, perhaps these subgroups of students need a program like the Calculus Project, right? Where they not only are getting those targeted supports, that is referenced in DESE's educational vision, but guess what? They are now cohorted with kids that look like them, and there's a sense of empowerment and confidence that comes from just that.
Yep.
Right? We're not talking passing the exams, like we're just talking that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a lot of work that we're doing around that piece, and we're definitely seeing improved, marked results. And actually, one of the things I would love, Dr. Hunter and I have been talking about this, is find some time for Dr. Mims, and founder of the Calculus Project, and his team, because they just met with us last week and shared some highlights about our program. And we are seeing some drastic changes, and it's been just 8 months, maybe, less than a year, of us just boldly making some changes that are impacting students.
So that's great. So the reason that stands out, especially for tonight, is there's two things that have stood out to me since June. One is what Aisha said when we were doing our goals around figuring out IEPs early. And I think we've started to dig into that with Shelley's help, with Dr. Hunter's help. So I want to keep doing that. And I think we're set to revisit that next month. So that's one. So that gets to what you're talking about. And then I think the second one is what Alexa mentioned either the last meeting or 2 meetings ago, which is we obviously can do a lot of things in school committee, but one of our biggest responsibilities is the budget. And so hearing from you about investments in different academics or supporting you with the grants or going above and beyond and some of the things that Millie mentioned earlier, that's what we want to make sure that we're talking about, because there's a lot that we can control within the 6 to 8 hours that kids are either on a bus or in the school, but there's a big world out there. And I think all of us want to be a part of things, whether it's what Dr. Williams said at the beginning during public comment, or the things that we're doing at the high school tomorrow night. I think we just have to also be realistic about what we can control so that we're having the impact that we all desire. And so keeping that in mind, I think whatever we can do to continue to hear from you about those 3 to 5 impact things that you need, that's what I personally would love to see. And then if there is an investment that's missing, then let's be loud about, hey, we need this, and prioritize it, because we want to make sure that we're impacting in the right way.
Absolutely.
It's 7:06. We have a lot to cover. Does anyone have any other final comments for Andrew or questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And I've been sitting here really quietly. Wasn't that impressive how long I didn't talk? I think the biggest impact Andrew has is the work he does with others. And I think one of the challenges we're having with the marketing of the role, and this is the vision, that he said it to me 5 years ago, right in my face, was this is not a black person's problem to solve. The white people need to solve it. And that's how we've led. So he's empowering the rest of us to understand what we're doing and how we have say and impact. And by we, I mean the leadership team, the teachers. And so it isn't just a one-person job, which is not normal in a lot of districts right now. And I think that's why we're having a hard time showing you what he's doing a lot of the time, because it's coming out in all these other ways. But, for me, Brian Miller and Katie Stahl got up a year ago and said it's a tale of 2 schools, and they put up the data disaggregated to their faculty in one of the most courageous moments I've seen in leadership in 25 years. It was really hard for people to see that the white kids of Concord are soaring, and the kids of color are absolutely not soaring to the same level. And it's changed everything. It's changed all of our conversations at the high school. So it's just really worth noting that. And I think the part you say and have is the support of the budgets and the asks that we bring. But you've also created a dynamic where the union, the CCTA, brought you a pretty difficult proposal last spring that had some funding attached to build in a recruitment pipeline of diverse staff. You didn't have to support that at the bargaining table, but you did, and they're moving along and giving me updates and getting ready to get to the next phase of planning. You didn't have to support the FTE that took on the creation of a Black History course, but you did, and now the course is running. There's 22 kids or so in it as of this week, tomorrow. Most of them Metco, Concord kids of color. I am so excited to see kids finding themselves in that room that was developed by a teacher of color and other kids of color, and what that's going to sort to. You're doing it. I think we just all have to keep maybe putting more names to it and saying this is part of that work. But
it's never done, right?
It's never done, and there's still things that go wrong here, and teachers make mistakes, kids make mistakes. That's really hard because it's really painful and has negative, long-lasting impact, and so we don't want to pretend that all isn't happening. It is. And the goal, I think, if the work isn't proactive with the kids and the teachers to avoid those things, that when it does happen, we've got a foundation to look to staff or kids and say, remember what we talked about in the Playbook Initiative? Remember what that PD did for you? Do you see what we mean by unconscious bias? Can we step back and think about this now? It's giving us a different set of tools when problems happen. the goal is no problems, like you said.
Yeah, of course.
And we'll keep striving for that, so.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Absolutely, we'll be here.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, we are going to move on to the budget. We're going to do, I'm wondering if we can swap C for D, if we could start, just because we do have Millie and Andrew here, if they want to stick around, but you don't
more
have to.
So is this the time where we could be released, or no?
If you can stay for like 5 or 10 more minutes, there's some budget.
Tell me when you want me.
Okay, there's related budget things. You want them?
Yeah, if you want to join us.
Yeah, come on up.
Yeah, come on up. Millie, you too. Yeah, I think it's just important because it goes back into the budget's kind of a, it's pretty set, but at the same time, there's a lot of wiggle room. So we want to make sure we're having that discussion.
You okay?
Get another chair. I don't like that chair.
He's tall, he's on my level. and I-
Slightly higher, that's why I went with it.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think we can, Becca or DEIB, whatever you want to start with, whatever you have up.
So Millie, we tried to compile at the committee's request what we're spending towards METCO at both CPS, K-8, and the high school, so they've got that data. I'm just going to put an asterisk. All of these were really hard. There's some really direct things that you can easily track and pull out, and then there's a lot of more indirect things that we actually didn't try to capture. So you've got really the most direct costs and expenses that we're subsidizing for METCO and DEIB with great intent of serving kids well, so.
Yeah.
So it's precisely wrong. but-
Precise. That was my big disclaimer. Precisely well read there. So Bob's going to pull that up.
Great way to
That might be your
summarize it.
favorite statement. You say that a lot.
It's good, it's a good one.
It is a good, it's a really
Precisely wrong, it is
that.
good.
Directionally accurate.
All right, it's up.
So I'm displaying the METCO program costs and funding information. I included this in the school committee posting of the agenda online. And just wanted to highlight a couple things before we're diving into it. This does not include core instructional, administrative, and operating costs that support all students in our district schools, whether they're from Boston or Concord or Carlisle. We have core staff that educates our students, and that's not included in these numbers. These numbers are intended to highlight costs that are specific to METCO, separate from that, in addition to that. And we've highlighted what is grant funded and what is covered through our budget, so you can see kind of the difference. So I have, I'm going to start with the high level. Our two districts, and this is FY25 information for the current year. Concord Public Schools is on the left, Concord Carlisle is on the right. And what what this essentially shows is the orange highlighted section is the costs that are borne by the district's budget. And the blue and the light blue, part of that is METCO's funded grant funding, part of it's staffing, and part of it's non-staff expenses. The light blue is the non-staff, the dark blue is the staff. So in CPS, this has been a little bit of a gradual change over the past couple of years where we've gotten to this point. A lot of the costs in the orange section are for things like transportation, teacher costs, aides and tutor costs. And I have more detail on the following slides, but when you look at the two districts in Concord Carlisle, at the high school, the grant covers most of our costs. So transportation, the director. So that's kind of, this was, we had an inkling of this, but until we pulled the data together, it was a little bit surprising for us to see the CPS piece, at least to me. So I'm just sharing this to kind of give some visibility to it. The next part on the following page, I'll show, gives you detail on the different positions that are funded by the METCO program. The red highlighted items are items that we're funding from the budget. So, you know, the METCO grant supports a director, it supports support staff, an adjustment counselor, which we added last year, Latoya, an academic liaison in both the middle school and at Alcott. We have bus monitors for the middle school bus and the 2 elementary buses. And then also funded by the grant is all of our transportation. The reference to weekend athletics only refers to, that's really for the high school. And then all of our contract services, not as much there, is funded by the grant. Some of the PD we do, for the whole district, but there are certain PDs, memberships and enrichment programs that we have specifically for METCO students. And then we have small budget for supplies and materials. So our overall costs are about $1.2 million at CPS. And the grant funding covers about, I don't know if that's shown here, it's about $691,000 at CPS. And out of the budget, we're funding $545,000. And at the high school, we have a similar model, similar staff. We have 1 academic liaison, not 2. It's in 1 building. We do have a director. We have a counselor. We have the same support staff person is really just their salary split between both districts, so that's the same person, Barbara. And again, the transportation, we've added late buses. We have 2 buses in the morning at the high school, 1 in the afternoon. We have 2 late buses, 1 for kind of regular after-school activities that might end at 4, and 1 for when there's athletic events at the night. And then we have weekend buses that run when we have METCO students in that practices on the weekend for certain teams.
So if just to interject, so if I'm reading this correctly, if I look at something like transportation and strictly for the high school, because that's where my purview is, there's wiggle room. For example, if you have limited attendance in either, like, if you consolidated 1 late bus, that's something that we as a school committee don't necessarily have to have our hands in, but it's something that from that investment that's here, that if there's some of the programs that have been talked about, that Andrew's talked about or that Millie's talked about, we could consolidate that and move it around as such, but that doesn't need to come to this committee for approval to do that. Is that a fair assumption to make?
I mean, I think, we responded to some of what happened a few years ago in the listening sessions that have been referenced tonight was really hearing accessibility through transportation, especially to the high school and athletics. So we really tried to respond to that.
Sure.
So I think if we were to shift from that, we would want it to be a very significant conversation, include the METCO parent community, METCO staff, students even, and really understand how that's going to play out, and also proactively talk with them about what the other options are. It's a hard world to have kids on the tee alone at 10 o'clock at night after a basketball game, and right now we are running a bus for those late games to get them back to the city.
Okay.
So, or after a Friday night football game, we are running a bus.
Well, that's the best way to put it, is like, I don't want to make those decisions for the METCO community. Like, I would defer to Aisha or to you. Like, I don't want to, I just want to, again, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing it's part of the grant, it's in your purview. Like, I want to be clear on what we put our hands in versus what you could get our advice on. And then I would lean to Aisha because she's the METCO rep. So I just don't know how often we would pull parents, because things could have changed since you did the deep listening session. How often?
Yeah, so we have a survey out right now.
Okay.
So we're asking some of these questions. Andrew and I and the METCO leaders who are here tonight had a meeting Wednesday night of last week and had some conversation there. We didn't point blank talk on transportation. It comes up at almost every discussion, though, because it's such a critical component of being able to participate here. So I hear you. It's like, we can't do everything, so are these the right priorities? I think we should keep checking in.
Okay.
Yeah, I had like a similar reaction, like I just did the math on the number of students at CCHS, and we're spending close to $5,000 per student just on transportation, which is a huge amount of money on transportation. And obviously, these buses are serving a huge need, getting kids. I'm really curious what you think in particular, but if to Millie's point, the academics, like really focusing on the academic needs, are there ways that we could think about some of that funding, or is the best use of that funding truly getting kids to and from school when they need to get there? Because sometimes that is the biggest barrier, is just being where you need to be. What's your?
So, I mean,
Not to put you on the spot.
No,
sorry.
no.
Can you move the microphone to her? Yeah.
I think that transportation is important, and, if there's ways to consolidate buses, of course, that would be great, but also I don't want kids on the T at 10 o'clock at night either. Like, that Forest Hills is one of the late bus stops, and we've had 2 shootings there this year. So, and one being a homicide. So I don't, I want the safest plan going forward. So, if we can consolidate, of course, but also keep in mind of safety as well.
Yeah, and when I say consolidate, I think you're saying the same thing, like, we don't want to consolidate to end it, we want to consolidate the transportation budget.
Yeah,
and then move it to something like academic. You're
Right,
talking
yeah. And Millie, I'm curious what other districts do with transportation.
Probably not as much as you guys do in some cases. But I would say that I did talk to Lori about this a few weeks ago when I was here, because we were talking about, the expenses. And also, I like what you said, Julie, that you basically said that what happened a few years ago, the need might be different now, but I think everybody's advocating appropriately. And I'm so glad that Lori's not saying, yes, let's actually have this conversation and try to see if we can decrease it, by really saying to have that deep conversation, because you're right, things could have changed. Like, one of the things that I talked to Lori about was, like, if there's only one student running in a bus and that bus is costing $700, like, we need to start looking, and I don't know if that's what the cost is per day. I don't. I think it's around that amount, actually, about 700 for a bus, or less for if it's a late bus. But that's something to look at, because if the usage is much, much lower, is there another way? We talked about, do people feel safe doing an Uber? Probably not. Is there some carpooling? Is there a van that, like one thing that a few districts did buy, and I don't know if you guys have this, but a few districts bought a MECO van. So when we had an increase one year, like, is that something that maybe you want to own your own van and then just pay for the driver, or someone from within, like on sports nights, to go back and forth? That's a way that you can then own the thing, just pay, maintenance and insurance, and just have someone identified to be an hourly person, to just kind of like, or maybe even a parent volunteer, and get those friends of MECO to try to maybe help out with that. So I don't know, you got to think about those pieces, because I do like what you guys are saying, that if we want to really make we can't make gains on academics if we also don't figure out, where that money's going to come from. And all of these are very, very targeted programming, that we're thinking about. So I think it's worth looking into. I think it's, you guys have the survey out, and I think also looking at the data, because I was asked, for example, at my own office to stay late for any late drop-offs. And I was like, oh my God, that's going to be like, I need a security guard, I need a PM secretary, I need a cleaner, I need a staff person. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to try it, because like Lori, it's like I have to respond to the requests, right, and to the need. I used it for 6 months. One person used it. I was like, okay, I'm not doing this right now. I said, we're going to take back that money, and if people need it, they'll call me, and I'll make arrangements on that day, versus leaving it endlessly open, Monday through Friday. So I think it's worth looking into that, especially if parents hear that it's going to be used for other things, and if can people come up and maybe, say that they'll volunteer to like bring a kid back, or even a MECO parent getting a stipend, you know what I mean, and get permission from that other parent, if it's just 3 students, to go and bring the student after the game. A lot of parents come to that. So, but those needs personalized conversations.
Yeah, okay. That's good feedback.
Some districts don't have a bus in the high school level because they're in proximity to Boston, or don't have a late bus at all. In an entire district, there's no late buses at all that I know of.
Okay.
That's only that I know of. There's more,
Yeah.
Is that survey coming back? Is that coming back?
Yeah, it's open for another, let's say, the 22nd. Closes this Friday, actually. I think we're going to extend it one more week, just so we give our families a little bit more time. But I will say that, transportation is definitely one of the bigger cost drivers. But also understand that, when we talk about belonging.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Transportation serves more than just getting students from point A to point B.
Totally.
right.
It also opens doors for them to access extracurriculars, and particularly at the high school, because of the work Melinthy's doing and the relationship that she's built. Our student engagement in terms of after-school activities has gone up, right? Students are staying after school more.
Yep.
You did have that 90% number in there at the high school.
Right.
90% of
Way back
kids are participating in extracurriculars.
Correct. And then COVID happened, and we had a sharp decrease, and now it's back up because students number one, communication has improved, right? Students know when the buses are available, and they just know it's accessible now. Like, they can stay after school without worrying about how they're gonna get home.
Yeah.
Right? And so it serves a lot, many more
Yeah, that's great.
purposes.
I want to be mindful of time, which I hate doing, but I do. I'm wondering if we can close out this section and move to the DEIB unless there's something urgent. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Just this last paragraph or two that
Oh, that's what I was.
Bob put in about the Metco
Oh, yeah.
changes in the Metco grant funding. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, do you mind if this is a
just
meeting I
elaborate a little
had last week with DESE. They've had a hold harmless formula, which is a rolling 3-year average that's used, and then a small amount on top of that, which has allowed essentially, really chime in if I get this wrong, level funding. DESE's sounding like they're going to change that and go to a strict in October 1 enrollment and just divide the money out, which for us, with the declines we've had, the small declines, probably equates to a $50,000 to $60,000 lower number than what we've had. So,
Lori, did you, or Bob, the email that when Desi sent this out, there was a worksheet already that had this year's funding
Yeah.
and next year's. Did you guys
we
see
saw
the
it, yeah.
numbers? Also, there is a little.
$50,000-ish
For you guys?
in both districts.
In each
yeah.
district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is why I need you guys to help with Advocacy Day, because we're about to have two very big asks around that. But basically, like Lori said, because in order to make sure that if people dipped a year in enrollment, DESE added $40 per student on top of their per pupil. And as a result of that, that actually brought up some districts to get several thousands of dollars more. And now the funding formula is getting complicated because we can't predict anymore that is a straight, what the per pupil is, because some districts got more of a hold harmless than other districts. So in order to be fair across the board, they want to get rid of the hold harmless and just basically a straight per pupil across the board, so everybody gets the same amount, there's no hold harmless, and you can predict your MECO grant. If you had 100 students and the per pupil is 9,000, let's see, next year, then that's your grant. But in some cases, just to kind of get readjusted to make up for the hold harmless being in this year's budget, some people may need an adjustment for next year to kind of get to that. But that's only if we're level funded. Right now, I am actually, now that I'm here with you guys, we are asking for $3.2 million increase on the MECO budget this year. I forgot, I should have actually probably brought that up to you guys, because we're just crafting our lobbying request, and we're asking for $3.2 million. And last year, they only gave us $500,000 increase. Our MECO grant right now is $29.9 million for the entire state, but we asked it to be $32 million, and we're still at 29.9. So we really have to ask our legislators to come through this year, because if we get even a few million dollars more, this wouldn't impact anybody.
Yeah.
Everybody will get a little bit of an increase, and then we can kind of rectify a straight per pupil across the board, because we have some districts that are getting even much more than what they're supposed to be getting, like few $1,000s more per student because of that hold harmless formula. So we really want to what they want to really fix it, and I think it makes sense, because if you see the real numbers, some districts I go from 8,000 to 10,000 because of that per student, and it just really isn't fair when we're all advocating and we're all doing the same type of work.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you have the date of Metco Advocacy Day?
Yes, March 20th at the State House, and what we're gonna do a hybrid of what you saw last year of a regional day and the big lobby day, which one of your students was the speaker a couple of years ago, and she did amazing, the fastest student in the state. So basically, we're gonna do is the big rally, speakers, hear from our testimonials, and then we're gonna break into 4 rooms to do regional advocacy. So all the legislators from Metro West, Metro, but we're gonna do Metro West, North and South. I know that's really kind of crazy, but it's because Metro West is too big for MECO. So we're gonna do the South and then the North, but then we're gonna do North Shore and South Shore. And then we're gonna have Boston legislators there, plus your own legislators for those 5 or 6 communities in one space. And I'm looking for people to help me either lead those breakouts, say some testimonials, and I'm working on a committee around that. That's March 20th, and then we have the legislative breakfast, which is for the MECO leader, for either their superintendent and the MECO director and their supervisor, or the chair as well is considered to be like, right there, to go and speak in a more intimate room with our legislators. And we're gonna have two presenters there, our researcher and the RIAC report there, to talk about to make the case for MECO.
Okay, Carrie and I will definitely talk with Dr. Hunter, and we'll.
Yeah, I'll get all these dates.
That one is
They're in my, there.
February 25th, on a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning at the State House, and that is a very intimate legislative briefing with our legislators and just leadership at the district level alone. And that one is a big opportunity, but I need you guys to talk to your own legislator and bring them in. I know you have a supporter here too of MECO, but they got to advocate stronger. We can't come out of there with $500,000 of an increase a year for a program of this magnitude. And last year, the angle was the fair share tax dollars. And we said, hey, you have a new tax revenue that didn't exist before, and it's all for education and transportation. MECO meets that criteria, gave us $3 million out of that, which only equaled, just by the way, to 1/4 of 1% of the expected revenue for the fair share. Guess what? They ended up with an extra $1 billion above what they had budgeted, and MECO got nothing. So now they're trying to figure out what to do with $1 billion. And the governor right now is proposing, is coming out tomorrow morning, she's proposing that it goes to the MBTA and to some call, like $800 million to the MBTA, and about $200 million for college.
Okay.
So there's still money there from last year, and that's without even counting on the FY26 expected revenue.
We got two reps.
Thank you.
Carmen Gentile
And you also have your senator.
yes.
So we need all of them.
Wayland, Sudbury.
Yeah.
and Concord.
So in the interest of time, I want to just make sure we're cognizant. Andrew, you had a question, and then Carrie.
I guess I'm just confused. Like, I look at these numbers and I'm not sure what we do, because, I mean, Millie, if you read our paper or you listened to the public comment, I've been on the committee 8 months. It's, there's a group that's so critical of the MECO program. So then you look at the numbers and, we're making investments. You hear all the good things that you just rattled off from the top of your head. So like, I don't, we get the survey back, my head's going to explode. I don't know how to translate that into budget or action to have some sort of different impact, or if it is a communication marketing issue that you said. So I don't know if there's a question in there. I'm just,
I understand
it's
your
frustrating.
frustration. Yes, I understand your frustration. We said the same word, and that's why I wanted to be here today as well, is because I don't want you guys to feel discouraged, because I see, I work with 33 communities and 190 schools, and I know you guys are not lagging behind in your efforts and in your budget and in your commitment as a school committee and as a staff. It's just that there's just a lot of work to do in any educational system, right? And we're always appreciative when parents speak up and tell us, because with their voices we can impact change, and that's what we did in the last previous years. All of these things that happen, let's acknowledge those things and continue to build on that, but we just can't turn an educational system around overnight, and I think people need to, also see that.
Yeah.
And see what investments are being made, and also that communication, like you said, around just really make sure that people understand this piece. But there's work to be done, but there's also not a lack of work.
Yeah, and that's why
all.
I sent Lori a question, and it was too late, but I would love to see this over the last 5 years, our investment, and see if, and I don't know what the lag period is, but, if we put another $1 in this year, do you see benefits in 3 years, or if it's right away or next year, so maybe that is another piece of analysis we can do and see when we really started, as you said, becoming a metro district and making these investments, like what the whip effect is and when you see the progress.
Yeah, that's
And I think,
it's always good to do year by year.
so I think that's, as we transition, Carrie said that she does not need to speak, although you can always come back to it if you need to. I think just as we transition, Andrew, once again, Millie, thank you so much. You've made a very rich conversation. I think just the transition based on what Andrew mentioned, but also, again, cognizant of what Aisha brought up last meeting, is we are making an investment, but MECO is helping us greatly. And I think this would be something that I personally, I live in Carlisle. We don't have a MECO program K-8, so I'm learning on the fly, as is Brian. Here, I obviously know about it, but seeing it firsthand through here. I think the biggest piece is we are a public school. We're a public district. we cannot control who moves to the town. So I do like some of the efforts that are being made by the communities of Concord and Carlisle. And I think the investment definitely goes both ways. But I think one last question maybe, or maybe a question to you, Andrew, is like, what can we do in the town government versus in the schools? Because like I said, we are going to take whoever comes to live here or who applies for the METCO program, whoever comes to Carlisle, and we're going to educate them. And we're going to do it in the best way possible. But how diverse the town of Concord, that's a broader conversation than what we can do here. Have you seen, maybe this is to both of you.
Socioeconomic
Yeah.
Housing.
conversation,
Ability,
and
yes.
I believe at the town level, I mean, I've heard rumblings of topic on housing and expanding on that and whatnot. But I just said this to Lori before we got in here, is that, it is an investment, right? It's an investment that was made decades ago, right? When the town of Concord and Carlisle decided to sort of enroll students from Boston, and not only for them to experience this community, but also for folks in this community to experience, what METCO is all about.
Yeah.
So it's a shared sort of responsibility per se for everyone. But I do think that just based on the numbers that, Bob has presented today, it's very clear to me, and it was clear to me on day one when I got here. That was one of the reasons why I came to Concord, was that there was a clear commitment for the program. And it wasn't just, coming up with transportation for a few days to help accommodate students. No, we were thinking long-term. That is why you see an adjustment counselor there. That took 2 years for us to get to this point, to have an adjustment counselor. When I first got here, I remember having conversations with Dr. Hunter and saying, we need a social worker. That was my big ask when I got here. We need a social worker because we understand the academic piece. What we need to get better at is understanding the challenges that our students come into this district, whether it is feeling as though they are the only person of color in the classroom, right? Having an adult that looks like them in the guidance office that can have those intimate conversations with them, right? So we have since made an investment for an adjustment counselor. And so when we think about the program, I think it's really making sure that every dollar that is spent has an immediate impact on the student.
Yeah.
Right? And then taking a step back, okay, how can we then better support the student? And you do that by adding additional staff, right, that not only look like the student, but also they have a colleague that also looks like them. They can collaborate. That is why we also now have 2 METCO directors, right? Because now they can collaborate and they can have conversations and organize programming that helps students transition from 5 to 6 and 8 to 9, right? That is why you have Solange Benjamin here today, right? She's our elementary coordinator, and she has a partner that she works very closely with at Alcott. Alyssa Silva is our tutor, right? And so when we begin to sort of understand all the needs of the program, yes, there are very clear student needs, but the support staff that work with those students every single day, we also need to make sure that they are being sort of empowered and have colleagues that they can bounce off ideas with and not leave them in a silo to figure out this work, because I did it.
Yeah.
As one
You
METCO
did.
director.
You sure did. Yeah.
And it was challenging. And so at the town level, I think, again, it's budget season. You have this data to inform everyone, but again, understand that this is an investment, and it's an investment that is paying dividends because our students, we can go back to the data, when you look at graduation rates, when you look at MCAS scores, right, we do see, our data is not declining, I'll say that. We are seeing an upward trend, whether you're looking at AP, honors, MCAS, students' matriculation into post-secondary opportunities, it's an upward trend. So we know the program works, and to use Millie's hashtag, it's worth the ride. It's a great investment.
Hashtag worth the
and,
ride.
I like that.
It's a community effort, right?
Oh, that's great.
It's not just-
I'm just grateful that you said it so well tonight, because I hope people out there are listening to exactly the way you articulated it, because this is, I know, what makes all of us proud to go and advocate for the budgets that every year at town meeting, despite the fiscal challenges that Concord has, that other towns have. But, you know, when you say it and articulate it so well, it makes that job that we all have to do every year more meaningful and, dare I say, easier, because, you know, that's what we're here for, and that's why we advocate so fiercely in the face of all those challenges.
Julie, I did want to say, I know you have to move on, but this is actually ideas for the budget part that I think would be helpful. Well, one, I just also wanted to say that that thank you for talking about how everybody benefits, because we can't only talk about how this
They're Aisha's words, so.
students, you know, but to hear a district person, you know, a resident person say that it's what we want to hear, because I can trust and believe, that's one of my other, trust and believe, there's no way that your district would be doing all of this work around equity if MECO program wasn't here. I believe it, because which district is being pushed as primarily white to look at all this equity work if the MECO program is not the, you know, the center of gravity for wanting to do that. So like you said, so all of us are benefiting. The district is becoming more, more equity in your curriculum, more ways to address racism, more looking at retention and staff and hiring of staff. I mean, you're going to be an example if you keep in this direction for a primarily white district to be doing what it needs to be doing. And, in terms of what the town, like what, in terms of what he was saying, I mean, you're talking about decades and centuries of either racism or redlining that districts still don't want to sometimes, accept people. We're still trying to recover from redlining. So that's why there's not a lot of people of color living here. So those are all things that we're battling here. And other entities have actually made it so that you can build housing around, as you know, build housing around the train, or Section 8 is moving for a mobility program right now that I'm working with, that they can move into any like high performance school district, and they will pay and match the cost of any rent in that community. But not if all the landlords are opening up their doors, and I'm working with Boston Housing around that piece. Not that everybody that moves here needs to have a voucher, but that's one way that is being looked at. But there's this other piece around money, and it's like I was talking to Desi, because Desi always has these grants that are coming out, and some of the grants, I'm trying to work it out to see how does the district apply for the grant, but identify the MECO students as the recipients of that. Like, for example, if you don't need to close literacy gaps, and I'm not saying you don't, but I'm just giving an example, on a particular grade, but you've identified that the MECO students need it, and there's going to be a literacy launch coming out of the state very soon, and they're going to be dedicating, millions of dollars in there. I talked to this, and they're like, well, if the district applies and says, I want to do this to, work with the students of color to close this particular gap, you could do that. Like, for example, they have acceleration academies. I can't apply for the money. I'm not in LEA. Yeah, right? I can always say ELA because I was an ELA student, but LEA. But you can apply for it, to then hold a site in Boston and say the Concord, Acceleration Academy over there, and it covers transportation, staffing, and it covers the entire thing. And in the summer, it covers 2 full weeks. So we have to find ways to get creative. I haven't talked in depth with all the superintendents about this, but if DESE has a grant that you don't need it for your entire district, but maybe you need it for a subgroup, then there's no reason why you can't say that the recipients of that grant is MECO, or that you want to send the students to a Boston office and we can support them there on your behalf. But what we also don't have is the money to do all of this targeted approach. I think we need to keep an eye on DESE funds and then do that piece. Does that make sense, what I'm saying about those grants?
One update about acceleration grants. Dr. Hunter and I have looked at many ways in which we can invest in there, but you're selling yourself short. The METCO REI grant that Millie's office helps distribute, we actually applied for a $5,000 REI grant this year to support a transitional program for our METCO students transitioning from 8th grade to 9th grade. And we actually did receive the grant. And so Melinthy's working really hard right now to make sure that programming for this program, which is going to happen in the summer, is effective, is staffed. She's hoping to work with teachers to be part of this program. We're going to come in the summer, meet as our rising 9th grader, 9th grade METCO students, get a head start in terms of speaking with them about sort of the academic rigor at the high school, expectations, different skills and practices that they need to learn prior to the start of the school year. So
What about Livius? I think you have a Livius grant
we
from
have
us
a Livius
too.
grant, $10,000 Livius.
I'm gonna pause this here because we
Yeah.
could do a forum all night. I'm gonna hold this in. So I think before we,
Grant, you guys do
what was that? Aisha, any last comments from you on
I'm
anything?
just gonna say, so I think, some of the questions brings up the importance of like the marketing portion and the, like celebrating our wins and, celebrating our current wins, our past wins, just district-wide, so everyone knows. Melissa does an awesome job of celebrating our wins at the high school, but if we could do that district-wide and in the community, so that it kind of, it would answer a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Yeah,
Super. This is great. I'm pleased with you guys. Just know that, okay? And just hearing you say that, what do you want us to prioritize? Let us know so we can make it a priority on top of what you've seen. And you still said, tell me what else you might need so that we can think about it. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we're all,
Don't lose your motivation. Someone will always have a positive article, like you guys just did a 5-year contract with Lori, and then say, but this other thing is going on. Like, just let's keep it in context, and just keep doing the work that you're doing.
thank you. All right, Bob, if you're okay with it, let's shift to the DEIB. We're gonna probably have to move pretty quickly on.
Yeah, I would stay high level on this one. You've talked a lot.
I was gonna say,
already.
if you don't think we need to do it, we can forgo it and we can come back to
I
it
think there's
next
a
week, or
lot
if we can go
new
through it.
there that we didn't touch on.
Still, on track with the investments that you spoke of, so.
Okay. I think the biggest thing is just for everyone, I think that the ask that I heard come through loud and clear in the last meeting was not taking anything down. It's more, is there a desire to move things around? Or if there's something that is really impactful, do we need to make a greater investment? Because this is the time to make that ask. It's speak now or forever,
Came to the right meeting.
Yeah, so I mean, like, my take, I think if,
Can I just ask a question about that Livius prep? Because that was a grant, so, because I read it in your message also with a bunch of school districts that can have it. Do we get it again next year? Do you apply for it again?
So that's
Or
a
is it-
question from me. That's our money that we put, so we put out $980,000 in grants. I almost took $1 million of the MECO whole grant and dedicated to any kind of academic closing gaps or racial equity work, and we gave $980,000 of it, and I don't have any more money. This is the last year I ran out. This is why I need your help, because it's part of my ask of that $3 million this year. Can I continue to do this work of either REI or closing achievement gaps, with our students or our districts with REI work, racial equity and integration? So I don't have it anymore, but I gave $980,000 out already. And we expended it out, and then with $500,000 increase, that's not enough I couldn't take that money away from the districts, getting at least a small per pupil increase. So I need additional money for that, which is why we're asking for the $3.2 million, so that we can go back to giving these grants out to the districts.
okay.
And is that a middle school specific
That is a
program?
middle school specific program, yep. And they were offering enrichment programs.
And academic
And
support.
academic. Now they have transitioned, actually, they're offering tutoring
Yep.
for our MECO students.
So maybe we can take that offline. I think also given what Aisha mentioned as well, because there's other places we can go for grants. I'm not going to name them publicly because I don't want to put people on the spot, but I have some ideas. So, all right. So I think that just to close it out, I think a lot came through, but you need help with the 3.2 million. You need some help with advocacy. The March 20th date, I think it was February 26th date. 5th, thank you. And then I think just the transportation cost is ongoing. Love the feedback on professional development. Heard the comment from Aisha on the middle school. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, but I think it's a good time to pause and say there's been some really great things happening as well. So thank you both. I think we're going to move on from the budget because I think we covered it kind of together. So why don't we move back to part C? And thank you again.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you for having
you.
us.
Thank you both.
Work on that. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Andrew.
Sure.
Yeah, you can go, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to do the second quarter budget update, the CC RSD. Okay.
Switch my screen.
Yeah, that was a good amount of time. Anyone else needs to take a bio break, we can do that. All right, Bob.
Okay. So this is the roughly to Q2. It's actually through January 16th update on the FY25 budget for CCRSD. I'm just going to highlight a few key things. What I typically focus on is explaining the transfers and adjustments we've had to make to the budget, which is kind of, these are where the variances are to our original budget. Within district leadership and administration, that's essentially mostly savings from one position, a retirement that we didn't fill for a tech specialist. One of the larger adjustments is in instructional leadership, the 2000 code, which has we've reduced the budget by 246,000. We had a 0.8 special ed teacher, it's actually a BCBA, who transferred to CPS to align with student needs. There, over the past couple of years, there's been a shift in student needs where that person's been pulled to focus more on CPS. So that results in about 100,000 of that 246,000 savings. The rest of that is savings on retirements or resignations and replacement hires.
Okay.
The other school services is we don't budget for homeless transportation. We end up getting reimbursed later. The key drivers of the other school services are homeless transportation and, to some extent, special ed transportation as well. On the fixed charges, we've been able to draw 222,000 out of that budget. A portion of that, about 60 to 65, 70,000, was for us eliminating Social Security contributions by enrolling in adopting OBRA for retirement for non-pensionable staff. And the other 200,000, you may recall I mentioned this in our last meeting, that we would need to pull from the OPEB trust contribution to fund some of our deficits in the out-of-district tuitions. So that's 200,000 that's been transferred out of there into out-of-district tuitions. And then at the bottom, you see out-of-district tuitions. We've already transferred 414,000 into that account. A portion of that is not actually special ed tuitions. It's for charter tuitions and school choice tuitions. Students can elect to go to a charter school or to a school choice public school in another district. Those costs have gone up by about 63,000. And the remainder is out-of-district tuitions. We still have a deficit of 360,000 in this account. We will be funding 100,000 of that from circuit breaker carryover funds, and I'm recommending now that we just pull the OPEB trust, the remainder of the OPEB trust contribution, which is 200,000, to cover this.
Okay.
There is some possibility that we are getting close, or maybe we've exceeded it, but there's a worksheet that we have to go through to verify this, to extraordinary relief for circuit breaker. And if we qualify for that, we may get some relief to help cover these out-of-district tuitions, and we would get that in addition to whatever we would normally get next year. It's kind of like a little bit of a windfall. It's not a windfall, we're paying for it, but it basically helps offset some of the budget deficits. But I do think that we should not plan on getting that. There's absolutely no guarantee we'll get that, so that we should pull the remaining 200,000 OPEB trust contribution to get this to a manageable position for the remainder of the year. And so I'm requesting our best practice is to have school committee vote on this quarterly, and we've been doing that the past 3 years. So I'm requesting in the action item section that you approve these transfers as presented.
The discussion?
Sure.
The OPEB, so we're ahead in contribution, so the not funding that 200K, that still keeps us ahead?
We are probably in the 99th percentile in the state. We are, I believe it was 60% funded. There's no requirement to fund it.
But you don't want to fall behind, right?
Me personally, if you ask me, I don't think we need to contribute nearly what we're, like, there's other priorities.
Okay.
We have a problem with out-of-district tuitions. I mean, the only way to cover this is, difficult, very difficult decisions that we would not want to do.
Right.
We still have it in next year's budget. I think we're in a pretty good position.
Okay.
So let me ask the question a little differently. Are we zeroing out our OPEB contribution for FY '25, or how much?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm recommending that.
okay.
I mean, we've already taken
No, I just want to be
2 or
clear.
225, I can't remember which one we took. But we
It's the
budgeted
rest, it's the
425.
rest of the contribution you're taking in, because you already, yeah.
Yeah.
It's either 200 or 225. I forgot how much we transferred so far. It's one of those two.
Sort of hand in hand with that, in the last week's presentation, it was highlighted that if we needed to make adjustments to the FY '26 budget, OPEB was one of the things that we might reduce again for next year. So I'm just concerned that we're now talking about it for 2 different years, but
Yeah.
you feel confident.
Yeah, so I understand the question. I would look at it, so the way I would look at it is a little different. I would look at it as it's in the budget. We can contribute to it. If we have problems, I don't, we don't necessarily expect, we think we have support for our budget next year, which enabled us to budget for the out-of-district tuitions. There's a trade-off of, do we budget the full cost? Do we budget more on out-of-district tuition so we don't have to worry about that? Or do we have the OPEB trust contribution as a little bit of a buffer to offset bumpiness in the budget? I think where we are is pretty much every other district would like to be in this position.
Okay.
We're also going to have investment earnings on our portfolio. It's like over $10 million. So the OPEB trust, assuming the market continues, is growing, and we're not drawing anything from it. At some point, once it's fully funded, we'll draw money to cover retirement benefits, but we're not taking anything out of it. So, in fact, last year, our growth was twice what we contributed. So it went up like $900,000, and we contributed $425,000. So, we'll see what the market does, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve fiscal year '25 CCRSD second quarter budget update?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, discussion, we already had it. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, great. Thank you, Bob. All right, so now we're going to move to the warrants. This is specifically,
I have a couple budget questions in general.
Okay.
And maybe Dr. Hunter needs to be here, but, or Bob can. I just was, I feel like we got a letter at some point this year asking about filtering of devices outside of school. And are we doing that? Filtering of
sorry,
devices.
what?
Yep.
can you,
You said we were going to discuss the budget and the budget item. That's what I was told in my email today.
Yeah, we can talk about the budget. This one is FY '25, but, yeah,
No, C was the budget,
okay.
right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
DEIB. Oh,
Okay, so I'm sorry, what's the question?
Do we filter our MacBooks outside of school?
Can I ask how, I'll answer it, but I'm just curious how it's
No, I
relating to
just-
the budget. We do not.
Well, it's really important to me that we do that, so I just would like to consider that for the
Okay,
FY.
I think it's a different conversation that we can put this stuff together to explain what we do and why we do what we do and hear other suggestions.
Well, can I just ask, because I'm a little confused, why is it a budget question?
Because I think it should be in the budget and will cost money.
Oh, to filter the devices?
Correct.
So it's software that you're asking about?
Yes.
so let's put that on, because I would love to learn a little bit more, but I know now when you're explaining it.
Yeah.
I think let's make an ask to go through it and have it for.
I don't want it tonight.
Okay.
We have another meeting.
Sure.
If it's going to be a significant amount of money that would add to our budget, that's what I'd like to understand.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and I think if we're going to do that, I think to Tracy's point, maybe a broader software line item if we want to go through that in
But is that
general,
our
or
purview to be determining
I don't
what
know.
software items that the district should be using?
Well, absolutely.
Not just ask it.
Yeah.
I mean,
We control the budget.
let's take this offline because it's
Yeah.
I'm not prepared to talk about it,
No.
let alone lead the discussion. So I hear you. Let's talk offline because I didn't realize that was going to come up. So let's do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. So moving forward, I'm eager to talk about the warrant because we have deadlines coming up.
Can I go now?
Yeah.
2 minutes and I'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, I tried it before, but I thought it
Can we take a break?
Yeah, yeah. Do we need,
We
do
can
we
take
need?
a break.
Take a break.
Yeah,
It's been a long time.
that's
2-minute break, 2-minute break.
2 to 5 minute break. How about that?
Perfect.
8:04.
Maybe we could mute.
You're gonna go?
Yeah, with the state up.
Yeah, yeah, I'd love to go. Let's do that for sure. We're still in session. Yeah, thank you.
That looks really dangerous.
I know, just careful.
Trying to walk over them.
So I thought,
Andrew has a strip over here. If you want to go under the table, we.
yeah, really, just go for it.
I mean, it's like a foot off the ground. All I can see is me going over it.
All right, so I think, I know we're a little bit behind, but I think that was a really good discussion. So happy we did that. All right, we're moving into the amenities building, and there's for the warrant, I'm going to give a very macro view, and then I'm going to turn it over to the campus completion subcommittee. But just to give some background, and I'm kind of bleeding into the liaison update or chair's update, but Alexa and I both joined the CPC meeting on January 14th in Concord. That is actually going to probably be the primary focus for this evening's discussion. Carlisle we'll definitely cover, and I'll defer to Brian on that. But the CPC timing doesn't align in both towns. Carlisle's just opened, Concord's is long closed. We made the ask to be considered an off-cycle candidate. or application, I should say, which is in the rules. We just have to make sure we fit within the ask. We had a really rich discussion. I just want to say thank you again to Burton, who chairs that, for even allowing us to go and being so open-minded. I think I presented in less than 5 minutes, but we had probably, a 25-minute discussion as a group. There's a lot of interest, and I think, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's a few things that are in motion. One, this isn't done often, so I think people were just really kind of figuring out what we can and cannot do. I think there was a lot of thoughtfulness by the entire CPA group, or CPC, I can never remember the acronym. Just thoughtfulness on setting precedent and being fiduciary stewards. So it was a really good discussion. I said to them, and I'll say it again publicly, it's really hard being the last people you ask in a town because you shoulder the no. And there was a lot of other funds that could have supported that didn't come through for us for a number of different reasons. One of the things that that changed, so that the night of, there was a vote to even consider our application, and they deadlocked it 4-4 because one person couldn't make it, which is unfortunate. Long after I think we concluded our discussion, we both stayed on for a little bit, somebody changed from no to abstain. So it actually made it so that we potentially could apply. Nobody said yes or no, but the window is open and we are going to apply, is I think how we left it. The other thing that I'm diving into, and I again, maybe Tracy, you can cover it, but there was a discussion at the December 2nd select board meeting that I listened to. I just didn't have a chance to listen in completion. But I think the general feedback that I took away is that for the town of Concord, and I have no say, I mean, I am not going to reap the benefits or the, I don't know, the pain if it doesn't happen. I'm not a Concord resident, but I am an advocate for the school. The issue is that there's millions of dollars in the fund, and I can say that without hesitation. It's not hundreds of thousands, there's millions of dollars in fund, and it will be contributed to again this next tax year. And so I think that's why the committee who did vote yes to consider it we're pretty open-minded about it. And again, I think the other thing we talked about is we're really talking about toilets that are ADA accessible, and obviously just on a multi-generational campus that I cannot say enough. So I'm saying all this because it is going to impact the warrant. It is going to impact our path forward. Because as of right now, if this doesn't open up, Concord would strictly be going to a warrant with no other funds supporting it, whereas in Carlisle, we are going to apply for CPC funds, feel fairly confident in a path forward, but nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. But we can at least apply under the normal circumstances, maybe the better way of putting it. And so, is that fair to set the scene, and I can turn it to you all?
It does, and I think that the one thing we talked about this morning, so we had a meeting this morning, and Alexa and Brian, feel free to jump in, was that the warrant language, because the warrant is now open,
right,
that we would ask for the total amount, because even if we were, and I'll only speak for Concord, and you can speak for Carlisle, even if we were to get CPC funding, that's not voted on until town meeting.
Correct.
So it's like this whole chicken egg situation as to how much money you're asking for. And we can't go up at all, so we don't want to ask, we can't make any assumptions.
And one of the things we were saying was perhaps should we apply for this grant, and should the CPC recommend to town meeting to award us some money, we thought about urging the select board to put that vote in advance of the warrant, so that when the warrant is moved, it's for the right amount.
And we could modify
Yeah,
the
okay.
number on the floor.
Yeah. So those were the only sort of moving parts that you
Yeah.
suggested.
I think, yeah, the only other sort of thing that I think we need to iron out, and this is something that Bob brought up, is let's say there's no CPA funds from Concord, there is from Carlisle. That doesn't offset the Carlisle assessment only. That would offset the overall project, is what.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, and I think we need to look into that, because what I can say, having had a conversation today with the Carlisle CPC chair, is that if it's not moving forward in Concord on the CPC side, there would be some pretty big red flags
Yeah.
on the Carlisle side, because so ideally, we're seeing these move forward in tandem. You know, we would make our requests sort of proportionate at the get-go, but, you know, there's going to be some moving pieces between now and both towns' town meetings, but we should, personally, I mean, I would like to see us be ready with those warrant articles, because
Yeah.
the deadline is quickly approaching.
Right, and I don't have the history, I hate to say the Doug Whitefields, was there CPA funding for Doug
Yes.
Whitefields? There was CPA funding, but Carlisle did not participate, correct? Which is
Correct.
kind of where they're Concord-owned only.
I don't think it even occurred to them.
Okay,
You know, I think
Good time.
the CCA play was like, oh, we can ask Carlisle. Oh, it's a town
Doug
project.
White is the town of Concord.
Yeah.
So
Doug White was a
Carlisle
town
did not
project.
participate,
Town
which is
project,
why.
that's why.
Project, so
Yeah.
I think we need guidance to see, like, that's the first thing we need, is the guidance to see how it's going to be applied. I mean, I think we still move forward in both towns, and I really can't emphasize it enough, and I said it at our meeting this morning, we only had a couple people watching our meeting, but maybe like me, they watch meetings at home, I don't know. You know, later on, people will be watching, but they are toilets, and it's plugs in a sink. This is not a fancy building, it doesn't have heat in it, it is, we're going to make it the cheapest we possibly can make it, but, you know, having witnessed people there, and I'm just going to keep saying it again, having witnessed people not able to get into yes, we do have handicap accessible toilets there, they still can't get into it, so.
Porta potties.
Porta potties, yes, we don't have a functioning toilet, they're porta potties. So I can't say that enough, it is very personal for me, and I think that we just have to advocate as a committee as strongly as we can, and that means outreach from all 7 of us to whoever our networks are, to really bring light to this before the town meetings in both towns.
Okay.
So I have a few more questions on the mechanics. So I assume CPC is going to meet again and add this to their warrant article. Is that correct?
Yeah, nothing is confirmed. I think the next step that we have to do is put in the application.
And
Yep.
we agreed, so the subcommittee meets on Monday morning, again, that we would have final drafts of both applications ready, so that the subcommittee can review those on Monday morning, and then.
Usually
get
the full
those in.
committee would review it, but given the,
I think the time crunch and the,
I mean, we've been kind of so the way subcommittees are supposed to work on school committees, is the subcommittee comes to us
Agreed,
as a full
agreed.
committee.
Aren't you the petitioner? Like, did we review the CPC grant for the Thoreau Field?
Did not. We informed you of it, but we didn't actually bring the.
But aren't they different? Isn't this coming from the school committee versus coming from the administration?
No, you're the
She's still the
petitioner.
signature.
That's
Oh,
what
of
we
the-
were, we were debating.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize. I thought this one was coming from the school committee.
For the,
I think we could,
Either way,
yeah, I hear you. Cynthia.
getting it in is the most important piece, I think.
I think that the biggest, I would normally agree with you, and I think it's the same thing we had in the conversation about this use of extraordinary to reopen in Concord. And I think the thing I look at is, again, I'm not a Concord resident, so, but when I look at the taxes for both towns, or just the state of Massachusetts, when there's $2 to $3 million sitting in a fund.
that's not,
No, I know it's not. I know it's not. But I'm saying I want to reduce the ask to taxpayers as much as I possibly can.
totally agree.
I know you do. I know you do. But I'm saying, I'm looking at the word of extraordinary because it keeps kind of getting brought up to me,
Who is the petitioner?
this lens. So I think that's something we should talk about. But I think,
You're not an entity, a subcommittee is not an entity.
no, correct. So it's either going to be Dr. Hunter,
You or me.
or we would have to do it as the school committee.
I'm just saying, why don't we meet quickly on Monday and approve it? That really shows our full support,
Sure.
right? Otherwise, it looks weird.
Does I think that's fine.
Well,
like on Zoom
Or why
Yes.
couldn't we, on Monday, we have a subcommittee meeting, so why couldn't we make that into a full committee meeting
yeah.
at 8:30 on Monday morning?
Sure.
Do it
We're
quickly.
meeting anyway.
If we're meeting anyway, why wouldn't we do it at the same
And
time?
all we need is a quorum
We only need
of
a
the
quorum,
7 of us.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Done?
Does that make sense? I mean,
As long as we have a quorum.
So out of the other 4, Julie, Carrie, Andrew, Cynthia, can one of you come on?
we just need one Carlisle. You're there.
So we just need one of you
The
to
only,
come. Anyone
the only
available
issue
at
is
8:30?
you have to do it quick because we have our Carlisle coffee, which is part of the goals.
Yep. We were doing it, yeah. So
We need one of you, so can
I
you come?
can't do it,
You
really.
can't. Can you come?
Yep.
Okay, so Cynthia can come. Great, you don't have
I
to.
complain.
I can be there.
You can be there? Okay.
sometimes
You don't have to be there. If you don't want to, you don't have to be.
So
So
we have a quorum, so we'll just do it then.
Okay, I am sometimes late because I'm a chiropractor, but
You'll be there for the vote. You were there at like
Well, I know, but you
8:33.
have to
fine, as long as we're there for a vote, if you can do the reading.
anyway,
Yes, we
I'll,
do.
I'll
Let's go through it.
We'll just
I think that's fine.
8:45. I just,
Why'd you just post it for 8:45 or 9?
Well, because they have their coffee. Let's
What
just do
time's the
8:30, I'll be there.
8:30.
I'll just do it. And if I don't,
Do it at 8:30, and if we can just have at least 4 people be there right at 8:30, that would be wonderful. I will be one of them.
You could send around whatever draft you have without
Yeah, if it's really at 8:30.
comment on
no,
it.
but there have to be, don't there have to be
So-
3
warrant
so-
Concord? No, just 2
We-
Concord. Okay, 4.
We can, but we are posting that meeting. When are you posting that meeting?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So the draft would
catching
have
up.
to be complete tomorrow.
No, it doesn't need to be complete.
No.
Say
We don't need to have
sometime
it.
before the meeting.
Okay, all right.
I mean,
Send
it's
it.
Sunday night, whatever.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate it. That's,
Yeah.
I think that's a good recommendation. Let's do it.
Yep.
great.
Okay, so back to the mechanics.
Yeah, so I think.
submit an
So I
application.
think the question that I wanted to do is, I thought it was good the way that CPC did. I think we should go around there. I think it sounds like everyone's on board to submit the warrant. I think, to Tracy's point, we can still make edits on the specifics for the amount, and given that we're hoping for CPA funds, sorry.
Yeah, whatever.
Act, and it's the committee.
Correct. It's CPA funds through the CPC.
Yep.
I think, yeah, let's try to do that.
So we're going to ask for the full amount
In the warrant.
in the warrant.
Oh, yes.
The warrant, yes.
No, assuming no CPC funds with
Correct.
either town. Okay.
Correct.
And then we just would be helpful to understand the what happens if or what happens if.
Yeah, because I mean, speaking as a Carlisle resident, I mean, it has a little, I'm just going to say it, it has an ick sense if Concord shows up with nothing and we spread
No,
Carlisle money.
yeah.
Given the fact, if it was one thing if the money was depleted in Concord, but that's not the case.
Has anybody talked to Carmen about the warrant?
Not
and
yet,
the-
no.
Okay.
I mean, we've seen her at the
Probably a good
chairs
idea.
breakfast.
But can't you always reduce a warrant?
Yes.
Right, but just the
You
wording and the
can't
block.
increase it.
Right,
Yeah,
yes.
so I think.
We
I
have
think
the
we're-
warrant
Yeah.
wording from.
We do, okay, good.
From a year ago.
Yeah.
Last year,
Okay.
the same.
Yeah.
And we're just plugging in
It's the
what
last
number?
Yep.
The highest
the actual
possible,
number
because
that
we
we
won't get
have.
actuals until March.
No, I understand. So what is the number right now?
1.8
something.
something.
1.8 and change.
Okay.
It was on option 3.
3A.
Yeah.
But,
Top number on option 3A.
so hold on though, wouldn't the warrant only be, since it's for Concord Town
We
meeting?
put it in for the whole amount, and then we discuss the
And then the
split.
Yes.
allocation goes after.
Okay.
It's weird, I don't,
We discussed that this
We
morning.
discussed
Bob
that this
helped,
morning as
Bob
well,
helped us with that
Okay.
this
Yep.
morning, yes.
Okay.
it doesn't make sense, but it's the way it is.
Yep.
Things
Okay.
can't change.
And again, I'm not trying to be rude. I just,
No,
I just think
I think you're
we're
right.
talking about taxes in both towns. I just, especially when the money is out there, people are willing to do the work. I literally cannot say enough positive things about the CPC group and what they're willing to do to even look at our application. So, yeah, let's just
I
try
just
to get
want
it
to
done.
say, as like a member of the committee, thank you to all of you for everything that you are doing. You guys are going above and beyond, not just like for both of our towns, but to make this a reality. So thank you. It's very clear that you've put a lot of work into this.
It's important. I think, especially when we're
important.
talking about, I mean, obviously, I think everyone would like formal bathrooms at the, at the campus. But I think, to Tracy's point, it's personal for a lot of people in town. Even on the meeting, there's people talking about personally recounting stories of people being carried up to the BD Center, and it's just like, that shouldn't be happening.
Well, it's also the law. I mean,
Correct.
it's the law.
Correct.
It's the law. Thank you for saying that. It is the law.
It's the law, exactly. So I'm really hoping that we can get the support. I think people want to do the right thing, and I think we're going to figure it out. And if nothing else, we're doing everything possible to make it happen.
Is there
And
language for motion?
Not today.
I thought we had to.
I put the vote because I want to make sure everyone is in favor of putting the amenities building on the warrant.
Oh, okay.
I
I thought we voted
put
that.
the amenities
I think we
building.
did.
I'm just going to move it. I move that we put the amenities building on the warrant.
I'll second.
For Concord and Carlisle, or just?
Yes, Concord and Carlisle.
Concord and Carlisle.
Here we go.
yes.
Bob's making a good point. You probably have a ballot vote to follow in
Yeah.
Concord,
Right.
at least.
Yep.
Oh, because of the amount.
Yep.
Yeah, if you go for the.
Can you
discussion.
clarify that, so it wouldn't be can you clarify the amounts? It wouldn't be a ballot vote in Carlisle, but it would be in
We're
Concord?
not sure about Carlisle.
Not sure.
Concord's very traditionally going to have a ballot vote after that kind of number of excluded
What is
debt.
the number?
I think if it's excluded, Prop 2.5 excluded debt, town bylaws require a ballot vote.
Okay.
Is there a number on that?
But yeah, that's what I was wondering.
The town manager who was here when I got here, and he'd been here 25 years, he said $1 million was a definite.
Okay, so if we
Vote a
get
ballot.
CPC money, we would not need to have a ballot vote.
If it comes
Possibly.
below $1 million,
That was his rule of thumb. I can't say
joint
more
between the
specifically.
CPCs.
So again, and were you
We're gonna
on
wanna
this
talk
morning?
to the
No, you
town
weren't.
official.
No.
You know, one of the things that we talked about, like even some specifics that might, so when the Gail gave us the range, right, 1.5 to 1.8, we talked a little bit through like why the discrepancy and what might drive it in one direction or the other. And we all agreed to urge Bob and Lori in their discussions with Gail as they start honing this design, whatever it takes to get to 1.5, do it. And like, so for example.
If possible.
If it makes sense to do
possible,
so.
like, so
Right.
one of the things that was bantered about was different codes for the types of food that you might serve. So we were like, we're fine with not having hot dog machines and that kind of thing, even with the,
Yeah.
you reference every chance you can, these plugs, these like
Plugs.
mass, so like,
Strip like
so
this.
we've already sort of urged, I think collectively,
Yeah.
we're aiming towards the lowest possible number. So to your point, if it comes in, let's say closer to the 1.5 million, then we've got the distribution to the two districts, then you've got potentially, God willing, the reduction of the CPC. To your point, if all of the right things go our way, it will be under 1 million.
Because is the individual's name Sal? That sticks in my mind. He
Yeah.
presented to us.
Yeah.
He did say that towns he's worked with have gone for additional waivers because they have a one-time big event or a two-time big event, but most of their other events are this number of people.
Okay.
So they can reduce the number of bathrooms additionally.
I didn't hear it that way.
Well, can you ask him?
He said-
He was
so-
We're meeting,
clear
we're
about
talking
the
with him this
design.
week.
Yeah.
The code's been reduced. I don't
Yeah.
know if this is what you were thinking of, but they didn't make a waiver for the sinks. So the ratio of sinks to toilets is excessive. And
If you
you can
could-
get a waiver on the sinks.
He did say that if you have only like 2 or 3 big events per year, and the rest of your events are relatively this number, that you could go for an additional waiver because you don't need those many, you just need them like a couple of times a year. I believe he did say that.
I don't remember.
We're
but-
talking with him.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, so why don't we, so I think there's two things happening. I think the questions that you're bringing up are good ones. I think we'll get that when we get the formal quote in March, and we should discuss that. I think for the warrant, it sounds like there's a
Yes.
motion,
On the
we're
table.
discussing
The
it right
number
now.
should not go down.
We should put the warrant out there for 1.8.
Yes, agreed. I wasn't trying to debate that.
No, I know you're not, but I just want to make sure we're focused on what we can control today. So all in favor?
Well, I think we need a second. I don't think it.
Alexa seconded.
Oh, you did? Okay,
Alexis
sorry, I
seconded.
missed a second.
We're in discussion.
Okay.
I'm just worried, what if it fails at town meeting and then we have to go back next year? Is that's okay?
Yeah,
It is what it is.
it is what it is.
Okay.
I mean, I think to the committee's point, I think we have to go out to our constituents and
Yep.
talk to them about this, especially, I mean, Brian and I will do what we need to do in Carlisle. It's pretty straightforward because our process is open, and that's what I mean. We're in the traditional process. I think we had a couple letters that came through correspondence that gave some really great feedback. I know people have written letters to the bridge, like we've gotten letters to the FinCom. I think we need to continue to do that. Because, I mean, somebody brought in today, like even just inflation, waiting. There's money in the CPC funds. I think it's just convincing people that this isn't going to open up the floodgates to this happening every year.
Right. So it's a not to exceed number, basically, that we're going with. Yeah. Okay. I'm good with it. I'm just,
Okay, no, it's,
strategy, I'm just thinking.
yeah.
And I will say, just depending on what we vote on right now, we do need to coordinate with Carlisle Select Board sooner rather than later, and probably be prepared to come to a meeting to walk them through in greater detail.
Yep, agreed.
And I guess my other ask, Bob and Lori, can you get clarity on, does it need to be a ballot vote in Concord?
Yep.
Like, what triggers that? I don't know if that's legal, or if that's Carrie LaFleur, or who it is, but
We will.
I think we need
And
clarity.
I'd just like to know how much that costs,
What?
the ballot vote.
A ballot vote?
Yes, it's not cheap,
But that's not our,
But that's not,
but we would trigger such a vote unless there's somebody else that's triggering that, you know what I'm saying?
I think
So let's get people to approve CPC.
they have a
Yes,
big- they have a big paving project that they're bringing forward.
All right,
I'd just like to know, if we're not triggering it, then
I need a vote. All in favor?
yes, aye.
Okay, good. We're doing the warrant.
Good.
All right, let's move on to F, 25-26 calendar first draft.
Yes, so we worked with the calendar committee. Tracy was a participant. It's representatives from CTA and CCTA and us. So this is our first draft. I'll just pick a few highlights. Labor Day is very early as it can be. So that puts us at a return to school for students on August 27th. We have the 29th off on Friday per contracts for a 4-day weekend there, that first weekend. There's some highlights here of early release. I'm not going to go through all of those. We can do that more specifically at another time if you'd like. Conferences have fallen such that we have a conference day in November for both elementary and middle school. I thought
that was new.
that's
Yeah.
new. See,
I think it's
we have not lined those up for K-8 before, pre-K-8, so.
That's great. I mean, personally, I think it's great because December could be too long. Middle school is historically December.
Yes.
Yeah, we moved that back this year, actually. So now we're going to sync those up in November, so I think that's good news.
I think that's great, yeah.
Other highlights, there's a PD day in January for middle and high school. Actually, we skipped over their conference day in October 20th. Second conference day for that second one, that 10th needs to just be, it's just elementary, sorry, pre-K-5. They have 2 conference days, which I'll be transparent to say I started to ask some questions about whether we might consider going to one elementary conference day and picking up a PD day again. So that I would,
Say that, I don't understand.
instead of having 2 conference days in elementary,
Oh, in like the fall and the spring, you mean?
going to just one.
But then would you just scatter those meetings throughout the spring, or would you only meet once a
You
year?
would probably, we didn't get very far in this, so this is just me, not everybody else. You would probably move it later in the year and only have one formal conference day. Just up for discussion. We have a lot of PD needs and we're starving for time, so not that parents don't need information, they do, but I think we have other choices there. More to come on that, not right now. And then just to highlight the breaks, you can see where those fall. It's another long December break because of where the holidays fall, so we would not return to school until January 5th. As of this draft, graduation's on the 30th, and the 180th day is June 12th. Staff would stay till the 15th. Great. That's the first draft. We can take questions and then come back.
I do have one question, and just because I've also been working on the Carlisle side.
Yeah.
For December, was there any conversation about just taking the full 2 weeks? Because my concern is just having a day and a half before
Yep.
such an extensive period. What is attendance going to be like? What is content in the classrooms going to be like?
Yep.
And was that considered?
We
at
went
all?
back, we have historians on the group who went back to the last time it fell this way, and this is what happened, and people seemed content with it. We kind of did that this year, coming back the second and third. We thought that was a nice way to come back and got our feet back on the ground in a little bit more gradual. This obviously weans you into vacation. There may be more absences. I've experienced 2-week breaks. I think they're really, really long, and I'm not necessarily a huge proponent of them, but
Okay.
it's your vote on the calendar. I'd have to reconvene this committee if we were going to consider that, because
It was more just,
have to.
what,
Yeah.
what was the conversation about that one? So,
yeah.
I do think you might get some pushback at the high school because of exams, because that would be they'd miss it. I mean, a day of instruction, definitely. That half day, I'm not sure much happens on the half day, you know, in terms of instruction, but on that Monday, you could certainly have an exam or something. I don't know, I would assume that would be the feedback from high school teachers, but I'm not.
Do they come back and do exams that first week, or is it the next week?
Exams just
They have,
ended, so
reading
like,
and
we
then-
just had exams, and
Yeah.
so then they had a day off today.
We
So
usually have
they
a
just
week
had
of
4-day
instruction,
weekend.
a week of
Study.
reading period,
Yeah.
and then a week of exams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian, are we ready to talk about what happened in Carlisle, or no, it's still up for debate?
I gave my feedback on that. I also gave my so in Carlisle, that first Friday in the 29th, the day before Labor Day, I don't believe that's covered in any contracts. That's just been traditional. And basically feeling there'd be more value in having 3 days. And I always compare it to the start of school is getting a 747 off the ground, and we're basically flying from Boston to New York. Like, you get up and then you're back on summer vacation for 4 days. So I don't like the Friday, but if it's contractual, then
It is
so be
here.
it.
Here it is.
The
Yeah.
only other thing that I would say about this, and I worked with Carlisle already, is it would help to know professional days in advance, because where it makes sense to align, I'd like to see us align, because if you have your Carlisle elementary, middle school student off on the Tuesday and the high school on the Wednesday, Carlisle sprinkles them so that services and specials sort of don't get impacted. So I think for next year, if there's a way to get the groups a little more aligned on some
Yeah,
of these things, that
absolutely.
would be good.
Yeah.
And
High school one, just so you know, we do the full PD day at the semester break.
yeah,
That's intentional.
Newton is doing the same schedule as we are,
Are they?
24th.
Yeah.
To the 2nd. So
Probably going to be another mixed bag. This year was pretty mixed, that.
it's nice to have
second and
those
third.
2 days and not lose them. You know,
Yeah.
the Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah. We just have a different setup, because we don't have the Wednesday half-day. So we just have a lot of different differences.
yeah.
Just leave it at that for now.
But we moved some Carlisle
It
days
took us
next
all
year.
this time to align our own elementary and middle, Brian.
I was just gonna say, I think that's a
Another
huge.
decade to get Carlisle in the
I think
mix.
that's a huge change.
It is a huge change.
There's a
Well,
lot of overlap in kids.
that was a change from both K-5 and the middle school to end up in the same place.
Yeah,
It
no, I
didn't
think that's
happen
great, yeah.
Can I
easily.
ask, in Carlisle, do you have Wednesday half-days or Tuesday half-days?
They don't.
We have Mondays, we have Wednesdays, we have Thursdays, we have Fridays, we have Tuesdays, we have
Oh,
Wednesdays. we have Thursdays.
interesting, okay. I
Yeah,
was just
the feeling
curious.
is,
They
because if
also
you
don't
have
have a week- you don't
speech
have
and
a
your
half
speech
day
is Wednesday afternoon,
Yeah.
if all the
days they-
PD
most
was
weeks they go
Wednesday
for the full
afternoon, you
week.
miss too much.
Okay.
And then
We
like,
actually, my favorite thing is we do a lot of half-day Thursday, full-day Friday
Off.
for professional development.
Day Thursday, full-day Friday.
But they also don't have one half day a week. Like, every Wednesday is a half day here. They don't have that. They don't have a half day
They
a
don't have a
week.
half-day,
Yeah.
right.
No.
no, we like the ones where it turns into long weekends.
Yes. I love that.
But it's also like, I think one of the pieces that I would love to see that you've done really well and is like having the umbrella do programs for the kids. So anyway, in the interest of time, unless there's something pressing, can we move on from calendar? Sure. All right.
So we're going to vote on that at the next meeting? Okay.
There's a couple, we're missing something in the key. I'm assuming you just wanted the dates and you'll format
What do you think we're missing in the key?
the early
The
release.
early release
So the
Wednesday,
early
yeah.
release is a really hard communication issue because there's multiple iterations of what that is. We've tried a few different ways, and we got actually quite nervous we were going to make it more confusing, and have asked the buildings to really deliver that. We've had feedback that people,
They want
a
it
person
printed.
wished it was
Yes.
there, but coding it, because there's 2 or 3 different versions of early release, and getting the times right.
I just,
Yeah.
and the other thing is, I had a couple of people ask me if there was school today, the 21st and the 20th on next year, because it's grayed out. Like,
So the high school doesn't have school.
so that's confusing. So I don't know if there's a better way to,
Yeah, the code there. Okay.
but this is not important right now.
No, it's just
Well, no,
formatting.
but that it actually is important right now, because if we were going to do anything, we'd have to meet again. But it says, so if you look in the January,
No, it says PD day. But,
CMS.
PD day,
but it's
CMS
grayed
and
out.
CCHS
So like
is
if you're
grayed out.
just looking at it, you're like, oh, is there school or not school? It could be a me problem too.
No.
Someone
are
else
all
asked me.
PD days gray? Let
No,
me
they're-
just look. No. No,
There aren't
actually they
really
are.
any
No, they're
others.
gray.
In,
The two before
August.
school starts.
Oh, before school. Yeah.
So maybe what would solve that would be professional development days, and then in parentheses, just write no school.
The trick is the one, right, like today was just the high school, so.
I know,
It
which
needs
it
its
does.
own.
I
Anyway,
know.
we don't have to talk about it.
Okay.
It's a little
There
confusing.
should really be an asterisk that say, please check your
Check your
building
yeah,
information.
yeah.
'Cause There's no way to put it all on
So
this one.
maybe that is it.
Page.
Just
Maybe
like
we'll
an
just add
asterisk, like, check your building information on exact
Yeah.
times.
Or just,
I mean, it's very clear at the high school. If
say
you're
it's a
on their
toss-up.
Instagram, it's very clear.
Okay,
Hope he gets the right one. Okay.
Leave the
all
bus.
right.
Are there other professional development days that will be added to this? Because it seems like this is light, no?
We didn't mark, the last day for teachers is one. She could gray that in on the
You
5th.
have a lot of afternoon PD stuff too.
Like the Wednesdays?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we only have say over so many
Percentage,
of them.
percentage
It's a
of
different
them, yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Ready to move to IKF?
Okay. We tried to put this in a way that made sense. It was a lot, though, so I'm going to take a minute to talk through it. So I'm bringing you IKF, which is the graduation requirements, your policy. So we have two proposed revisions for two different reasons. One is pretty straightforward. The state voted to eliminate the MCAS, so all districts need to create a competency determination. We have some experience with this because in COVID, when the MCAS wasn't given, that is what we all had to pivot to. On a dime, the state said, you all decide what courses they have to pass in these certain areas, and we will ask you to validate that kids have taken that. So I worked with the high school administrators. In lieu of MCAS, this is what we're recommending that would be in the policy. Two full-year English courses, presumably 9th and 10th. We purposely didn't say that, though, just in case a student needs a year for some reason. Two of the following math courses, blended algebra and geometry, or algebra 2. Eventually, blended algebra and geometry will phase out because all of the Concord 8th graders will do algebra in 8th grade. But for the time being, we need it there. We'll also need to connect with Carlisle and make sure that's the case. So 2 out of the 3 of those, that's very aligned with MCAS standards. The law says that the courses have to represent the frameworks. So we're still accountable for the frameworks. And then for science, we are saying one of the following science courses. So we're a little unique that we have earth science among the mix, so we're actually pretty excited. That can be one of the course options. So either earth science, biophysics, or chemistry. So that's what we're proposing that you would consider in terms of in lieu of the MCAS. Do you have questions on that? Because the health and fitness part's a little more specific.
Can you just outline how this is different? Like, how does this, what is changing?
So there's no MCAS threshold.
No, I
You
know
have to
that,
go-
yeah. But like, do you think that this is like about this, like, are we expecting more or less the same?
I think most of our kids are meeting these quite normally.
And how does this compare to other districts? Like, how are they thinking about this?
I've seen a good number of the samples. It's very similar. We had the earth science be a little different. Others are saying bio, physics, or chemistry. Otherwise, it's quite the
So
same.
we're reducing the required credits in addition to removing the MCAS? Is that what I see?
Well, the health and fitness is a different thing, so I'll get to that in a minute.
These are just like the academic
Got it.
or the.
Okay.
So these are the same as,
Competency determinations,
Sorry.
Yeah.
topic number 1.
My bad. Yep, got it. Sorry.
so these aren't changing, except for we get to our phys ed discussions.
No, they are changed. These are new because of the MCAS.
Right, so right now, the policy says, if you go to the last page, it shows in the red markup that it used to say they had to pass the MCAS. Passing score on the MCAS is required. We're deleting that and going to put in what I've
Yeah.
just gone through.
But did English, social studies, math, science, or world languages change from our current policy? I didn't go.
No, if you go to the red line, you'll see
That's what-
none of them have
that's what I was trying to-
changed, except we're going to get to health and fitness in a minute.
Because I didn't want to open up that can of worms, but like, it seems like other districts have higher requirements for like math and social studies and science in terms of years. I don't want to.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that conversation. I
Nope,
think if
nope.
you want to do that level of review, I'm going to.
Are you going to make that part of the portrait of a student and all that? I mean, we're going to kind of examine a lot of these things at high level, or you don't know?
I don't know how the graduation requirements fit into portrait of a student. That's a
There is a little noise in our
process.
ASC. You know, people are asking it because they're digging in, and even some districts are going to require passing MCAS. Just a few so far that are going to do that at a local level.
Yeah.
And I'm not proposing that. I'm just saying that people are kind
Like
of.
you could make it,
Your policy.
There's a lot of noise on the listserv.
Yeah, we're all getting, the superintendent wants the same
Concord
way.
did not support removing,
No.
holistically, and our voters did not support removing.
Correct. I was going to look at Carlisle.
That is not my recommendation.
No, I
I think you
understand.
need to go to the competency determination.
So I didn't want to, I know we just want to review the PE and the health fitness requirements tonight, but I just,
Sure.
Okay. These are timely. That would be a longer term.
Yes, okay.
So how does this work? Like, a student could just take one science class in their 4 years at the high school and
Yeah, right now,
graduate?
up until now, they've had to pass the biology test.
Okay.
But they have course requirements, the number of credits, so they need 10 credits in science. So they can't just take one and graduate.
if you look at the program of studies, they have a pretty strong recommendation that if you're applying to UMass, if you're applying to most four-year colleges, they are looking for this on your transcript. So
Right.
don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
think about this.
competency determination is different than the number of credits you're required to gather. It may be less in some cases. It's truly a replacement of the MCAS.
Yep, gotcha.
I'm not an educator, but I took all these classes at CCHS. I don't think earth science should be there for science, just because it's a different science, but I'm not an educator, so that's just optically, I think biophysics and chemistry is a certain skill set that people should, pass one class of, and earth science different.
Are you putting the lens on through, though, that somebody that wants to go to a four-year college?
I'm just thinking to graduate, one of those is important to pass in my mind, but I don't have data, so it's
Yeah.
just
I
it's a
probably would
gut.
say there's probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but the majority of kids are taking more than just earth science.
Oh, yes.
Right,
they have
so
to
like,
do-
you probably have,
And to get the credits they need, they're going to need more than earth science.
right,
If we had the
This
data.
is
I
just to
think it
replace the
was-
MCAS,
Right.
which was a year, essentially, a year's curriculum.
yes.
Yes.
And the state had said it was bio. There was another test for many years that was more general than, it was not bio. We'd all defaulted to bio, but there was a different science test that had other things on it. Most people.
We still require 100 credits, 20 of which are in English, 10 of which are in
Yes,
social. So,
correct.
right,
Yes.
so, yes, so I think that's maybe what confused
And I don't
me.
I disagree with you, but I wasn't ready for that discussion. We're teaching sustainability, we're
Yeah.
teaching all the
It's a
core
different course
functions
than
of
it
the
was
environment.
20 years
We're-
ago, I would say.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Science, yeah. Okay, now I understand, so.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah, I just,
Okay.
then just describe the PE thing.
The PE thing needs some talking. So we've got two things here. One is we're trying to correct an error that was here. So if you go to the chart, the current correct credit allocation in yellow, that's what it should have had the whole time. And it didn't, because if you go to the actual policy, it was 5, and it should have been 8.75 total. Following?
Yep.
So the 5 was wrong the whole time.
Got it.
So we're just trying to correct that, but we're trying to do something else also. So now your baseline's 8.75 is where the policy should have said. We would like to reduce the junior year requirement for PE to 1 semester twice a week. We think, given the amount of PE we demand, PE and health, we have one of the highest requirements of anyone
Anyone in the state,
anyone.
yeah.
And we think it gives us a little more wiggle room in student schedules. We think we can still meet all of our health, especially our health needs. PE, we have such a high participation in athletics that we feel like there's a lot of ways that can happen.
Yeah, some districts
Some
allow you-
have the wave. Cambridge is one of them. It's on this page. They would just waive it if the kids are in athletics.
Would it allow kids also to take more?
Another science
Yeah,
class.
it would, because the 2
Elective
days,
classes.
the one semester with the 2 days in it kind of jams up that block.
Yeah.
And this would free that up for other
Elective kind
things.
of courses,
Yeah.
enrichment.
Yep. There's a staffing component that isn't our top priority, but this would eliminate a need for any other increased staffing, given some contractual agreements we just made.
I largely am in favor of that, especially.
Yes, the junior year is so important, yep.
Yeah.
Also, don't we have a really high number of students participating in athletics?
Yeah, it's about 400 to 500 of 1,200. Yeah. We will, not diminish the program for the physical component, but we feel very strongly the health component is
Yeah.
really, really important in this day and age.
I agree.
We've had kids say, because I talked about that in health, here's what I'm bringing up. And that's really powerful.
All right,
So
what's-
that's the draft.
Yeah.
We can vote this next time. Program of study is sort of out, so they'll probably edit that on the fly. The graduation requirements, the competency determination is for the class of 2025.
Oh, right away.
MCAS went away, right
That's
away.
okay. That's the timeliness.
The health and fitness, you can see it's more of a roll-in because it's going to pertain to the incoming.
Will the health and fitness have any impact on staffing?
This will allow us to have level staffing. We would have had to increase if we left it in
Okay.
place because of the contractual agreement
Okay.
we made last spring.
Yep, but there wouldn't be a RIF in health and fitness?
Oh, no,
Okay.
no.
Is there a waiver, because some of these require a full year, and if we're putting this into effect now, would that affect anyone graduating in?
It's going to be a gradual roll-in. So if we look at my summary here.
27.
Yeah, it would not impact the classes of 25 and 26.
Okay, it just needs to be in place this year.
Yes, the
next
competency,
year's juniors
because we
will
want them to, we want them to know what's coming.
27s are not 10th graders now.
Yes.
Next year, they would only have this in their schedule.
Yes, so they need to know what to plan for,
Yep,
what to schedule for.
Yeah,
Make sense?
yep, makes sense.
sure does.
Thank you for the thoughtfulness.
I think Brian and Katie stall.
Yeah, thank
There's
you.
a lot of, the superintendent got a lot of coaching.
Whoever
to
does
be able
the
to-
scheduling software, good luck to you.
There you go.
That's great.
All right, we're,
Are we voting on this? or-
That's, because it's a policy, it's a first read.
Next time.
yep,
I will ask for a vote in 2 weeks.
all right. We have,
Spend an hour on goals.
no, we're going to spend 5 minutes. So I think for goals, we can do a more robust view next week. I think the biggest one is the ones that are due I'll say this month. I didn't see anything pressing at all. I think the biggest things are the coffees. Like I mentioned, Brian and I are going to do January 27th. I just need to post that. But I will be, I'm going to create like I'll call it a social tile that I can send to everyone if you want to share it on, don't laugh at me, Tracy.
I love it.
Yeah, you can share it on your Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. Maybe I'll send it to you, Dr. Hunter, so you can share it on the school, just so people want to come.
Yes. We did do that. Still, nobody came to our coffees.
I know, but it will be,
So it's okay if people don't come.
yeah, for
Great if
sure.
people come.
Well, we're going to have a school committee meeting right before it, so maybe it'll be exciting.
Julie's cooler than you are.
I know she's going to attract more people than I
We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, so Alexa and Aisha, I don't know if you have any ideas of, you're going to try to combine yours with some outreach, right, in Boston? Okay. Let us know when you have a date and we can create something as well.
Who's my partner?
I mean, I'll be your partner. Can I help you?
Can you just pick a date?
Yeah.
And then I'll just be there.
Yes, I did have a couple of, I have some interesting ideas that
Okay,
came
great.
to me through Emerson today. I think the other one was, you're chugging along on the story of the school, just getting feedback, and that's not till March, but you were just starting to work on that.
Yeah.
Speaking of marketing.
We met last week, and I think we meet again on Friday, yes? Did we, and a couple of things that we're changing is that we are going to start posting our meetings. So if we are meeting on Friday, Lori, we probably need to post that. I think we had said every other Friday from
Oh, I
2
don't
to
think
3.
How do you usually meet, though?
2 to 3.
Yeah, I didn't have that, so I don't know why.
So we don't have to meet this Friday. We can move it to the next week, but I'll follow up offline with all of you about that, but,
So we'd have to post in the morning if you want to meet Friday.
yeah.
So,
Okay, well, do you guys want to meet Friday? 2 o'clock?
I
on Friday?
can.
I can.
I'll be away, so just Zoom, but either is fine. And Brian, you prefer Zoom anyway, right?
You can also move it, you guys. You can do it a week later. It's up to you.
We're really trying to get some traction.
Very excited. I feel like if we just gotta do
I
it.
mean, you don't need me, I'm going to,
Yeah, whoever can
I'm
go.
in the
can
new
go.
school until 2, so I don't know if 2's going to work, but.
Let's do this
Think you
Friday.
just-
I think that's fine.
it, and if I get there, I get there.
A quick
Even if
meeting
it's
too,
quick,
to
yeah.
kind of run through
Alright.
all of the materials.
Because Carrie gave us homework that we didn't realize was homework, so I think it will
Oh, I'm sorry,
help
the
us.
bulleted out.
Sorry, well, it wasn't Friday
Respond
night.
by Friday.
I'm sorry.
What are you calling yourself?
Apologize.
We're calling, I think we decided on the communications working group.
Yeah, okay.
Communications
I'll get
working
Erin
group.
queued up to post.
And there is in that email a
We meet
draft
regularly
agenda.
On the same thing, you have to post.
But do we need a charge and, did we do the charge in the chair?
Because it's not a.
Oh, it's a working group, that's right, it's a working group, you're right.
However, I did, Lori, I'll just email you I did like a agenda we can just repeat.
Okay, and then let's make sure I know the schedule, because I lost
Alright.
track of that.
I'm just going to forward my email to all of you. And then we'll,
Well, it's all in the document, in the drive, which is wonderful.
yes.
Yep. And then I think the only other thing is just for the second half for the policy subcommittee, we should probably look at a date, I think at this point, probably March, but to go through the cell phone policy was the other one we had on here.
It's getting hot, that cell phone thing.
Yeah, I think,
Schools, oof.
I know, but I think
Bill,
we'll
we've
just
got-
talk about it and,
And then Title IX is going to have to get redone somehow or another. It's getting more and more redone every day.
yes, that is for sure. So I think those two, so I think maybe just looking, I'm not trying to skip February, I just am aware of how much stuff we have going on. So I think March is probably the most realistic.
Yes, I vote for that.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we have completed our discussion. Why don't we move to superintendent chairs and liaisons update? Laura, you want to start?
Sure, I'm going to stay very high level. Obviously, we're starting the second half of the school year this week, so we're all excited by that. That gives us, as leaders, at least a half a foot into next year already. So course signups are starting at the high school. We're already actively looking at staffing as best as we can and enrollments and all of that, obviously connected to the budget build as well. 2 or 3 positions at the leadership level that we've posted, assistant superintendent of teaching and learning, so we can do that permanent search and wrap that up. And then both METCO directors were posted last week, both CPS and the high school. So we're going to keep those moving. And then just, you heard some great highlights. Last week we met with the calculus project. We had a good METCO parent meeting Wednesday night. I'm going to save my new school comments till the Concord part, but that's much of my time right now in the last month of getting ready to get in.
There were so many vehicles there today.
It is really, really busy.
That's awesome.
I'll wait for the Concord part, but
Yep.
it is really, really busy. So I'm looking
I was
forward
kind
to
of
any of you who
amazed.
can come tomorrow, and no formal meeting, just to see what's happening in there. And it's just fun. Now the finishes are coming along, and the building's really starting to come together, so,
Awesome.
yeah.
You want to go?
I just have a couple of things from last week's chairs breakfast. I won't go through all of them, but the one was at the FinCom meeting. Lori and Bob will be there on the 13th to talk budgets again. I think this is the hearing. And then the CPC said that they approved 6 of the 7 projects that came to them. Obviously, that is now, There's an eighth.
Maybe.
There is an eighth that might be coming. And including Thoreau, which was $441,000 for their new campus project, which is awesome. So thank you for all of your work on that. The town meeting subcommittee or the town meeting committee is finalizing their recommendations, including the use of electronic devices, which I think is great and worth noting. And then the rec committee said that they are moving forward on Doug White artificial turf. The goal is to do it this summer. They're going to have multiple conversations around what kind of turf, but the discussion is not whether or not to do turf.
Yeah, I am actively sitting at the table with them.
Great.
So schedule's the big driver there because we have needs that have to be planned around.
Yeah.
Do you need any help? Are you good?
No, it's a professional town leadership meeting,
figured.
so, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but,
So I think that's about it.
okay, that's great. I think just for me, on a fun note, on the heels of coffee, one of the things that was great about having the Boston conversation, we're going to go in to have our meeting late February. What did we decide on? What's the center's
26th?
name? Rock Center?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that the 26th of February. I just asked the question. I figured it always happened, but when do we have a meeting in Carlisle? I guess it's never happened. We're going to do it. So I'll send out a doodle to see which meeting works best for everyone to come. I will tell you that the town clerk is very excited for us to come over to Carlisle. But we'll probably look at maybe like an April or May meeting to do that. So that's one thing. We also went to the Capitol public hearing in Concord. Didn't get a lot of questions about the amenities building. That was really the only one that we brought forward from the region. The only question that I personally had was just how we decide about what gets earmarked for fundraising versus what gets earmarked for budgeting. Eric Dahlberg had the same reaction to me. But I don't think we have a policy on that as a town, in either town. But just might be something we want to look into as more of these projects come up and the demands that we have.
I think somebody did try to answer you that we did have a huge study in Concord on public-private partnerships,
Okay.
which that was some of their conversation. They have a full report. I don't know where it is.
Yeah. So I got a couple emails that didn't have that kind of clarity, so that would be great if you have that, if you want to send it to me. Just to set expectations with people and nothing else. It's not a top priority for me. It's a general curiosity. And then I think just the last piece again is the CPA, CPC, and then Brian and I have been working with the Carlisle FinCom because they moved their date because it was the same night as the Concord public hearing. So we're hoping to connect with them on the 30th, correct?
Yep,
Yes.
January 30th. And
Yep.
they sent through some information that they want ahead of time.
Right. I saw Victor's message, yeah. So we'll do, so we have that upcoming. I think that's it. We went through the campus completion project. Any other liaisons, updates? I know we spent a lot of time on MECO tonight, but anything else that you had?
Or anything on the election, micro election?
Oh, you got any candidates?
Any candidates?
Not yet?
We've all been trying.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have not
Yeah.
any feedback.
All right, well, we're happy you're here.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other committees? I can't think of.
Do you guys have a new Carlisle School Committee member? When does the select board do that?
Good question. It sounds like it's on the agenda for February 11th.
Do they appoint? So it's not a special election?
Yep.
They appoint in Carlisle?
appoint.
Yeah.
For remainder of her term, which will end May.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So we'll have
I
somebody.
was hoping it was going to be next week's meeting, but for whatever reason.
The four of you are going to have to soldier on.
Oh, yeah. Our meeting last week, I think it was like 45 minutes.
Good job, Jim.
Yeah, it was great. So, no, just the level of complexity is just different.
Concord Town Caucus is Monday at 7.
27.
Okay, great. All right, correspondence from the region. Like I said, we did have a question come in about Title IX. We answered that. And then I think the second question, again, not question, was feedback. We've had a couple notes come in support of the amenities building from the region. Anything for CPS?
Only thing at CPS is we got a request from the Wellesley School Committee about air conditioning in our buildings, so we got back to her, but we have air conditioning in all of our buildings as of February 24th.
Yep. All right, consent agenda. Make sure I've got hearing, seeing everything.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
For both.
Hey, we did it.
All right. Could I have a motion to adjourn the,
You can just adjourn, right?
can I just adjourn, right? I never know when you guys are still in session, so, all right.
Adjourn the region.
Region is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Can we keep
You
going?
need a minute or just power through? Yeah.
Can we power through?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
It's not working.
All right. Good night, Brian and Julie. Thank you. Good night, Aisha.
Even I had dinner before this one. This is going to be long.
I learned my lesson.
Okay, see, we are gonna start with,
It's running up.
oh, is Justin joining us?
It's so late. It's not on. I think we lost track of it in the,
That's okay.
And that's
Long
fine.
weekend.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so CMS updates.
yeah, I can talk.
Do you wanna go?
Or you can handle it?
I can handle it. And I will just talk a little bit on some of what he's planning. He's got a wide array of visionary activities planned as we consolidate the two buildings. Unification and unity as the theme, and he's using that everywhere. He's got a logo of a heart merged together with a photo of Peabody and Sanborn now merged. Just a lot of fantastic ideas. Very personal. He's going to be collecting audio snippets from the kids to put together into a collage of podcast kind of thing. The highlight is turning into this walk, roll, run, whatever he's calling it, from one building to the other on the afternoon of February 13th after the kids have had their last days together. He's opened that up as a fundraiser for the DC trip.
Exceptional.
Isn't that just brilliant?
Such a good idea.
And then last week, because we started to get quite a bit of interest as it got said out loud a few times, we're just opening it up to the whole community, and we might actually have a substantial fundraiser on our hands, which is exciting. And I think people are going to come out because this is generations of kids and now adults have come through.
Can you just say the detail, like,
So from I think Sanborn to Peabody at 3 o'clock, we're closing the road, Old Marlboro Road, and there's going to be a walk, run, roll, whatever, to get from Sanborn to Peabody, however you choose to get there.
Q13?
The road closure is actually at 3 after the
It's
school's
February
out.
13th.
February 12th?
It's Thursday, February 13th.
Okay.
Yeah, after school. And his suggestion was people donate based on the temperature, which is a good thing we're not doing it today. But that was just a suggestion. So he's really putting it out and
That's awesome.
really selling it. I think it's going to be a really great community afternoon.
Yeah.
And
I
the
also think,
DC
too,
subsidy is
the
fantastic.
DC stuff, I think, in light of how thirsty I think people are for like a renewal in civics education, I
Yeah.
think it dovetails with that, and I know it's
It meets a
close to
need we
my
have
heart.
of
Yeah.
some funding to help with those
So,
subsidies.
Well, exactly. I think that because of that, you're wise to
Yeah.
expand it to the community. Another thing that really, Andrew and I were both in the CMS building committee meeting. The way that Justin, for those of you guys that weren't there, was talking about sort of his approach to the publicity, I guess, around the school as he's being, he said, the kids, it's exciting, but it also is like a little bit anxiety producing. So, his messaging out is really student-centric and to help support the kids and manage their expectations as they make this big transition. So I just thought that was worth noting, that that is always the lens through which he looks at things, and I think that that is lovely.
Yeah. So really fantastic.
When you talk about the DC fundraiser, How does that work as far as fundraising? Are you fundraising for your own individual trip, or it goes
No.
to reduce the cost?
It's
per
to give
person
us
across
a fund for people who request
scholarships?
financially.
Okay, okay, great, great.
So that's the student-facing part. The backside of the house is in the details. Every town agency is involved in some level of permitting and, everything required for certificate of occupancy. So we're deep into those details, and Bob and I are on, I don't know how many emails a day between those leaders. Things are going well in the building, little bits of flooring left to do, little bits of wood finishes to do. Kitchen equipment's got to go in. That was one we were all anxious about. It's in the building now and will be installed over the next few days.
There's internet.
Furniture's arriving. Internet, yes. Internet is in, which actually triggers all the systems being able to come online. So that was a big step forward. It's just really exciting. So you'll see tomorrow when you walk just how fantastic it looks. We were in there. I don't know, I've been in maybe twice a week last
It passed the leakage test?
We're waiting for the formal results, but apparently it went quite well Saturday.
Sweet.
Yep, so there was a 12-hour test on Saturday to make sure it was water solvent, and no water could get in, essentially. So lots of great things going on, just really, really busy, and a lot of minutia at this point.
Is there any way we can help?
I don't think so. Just understanding how much time it's taking is probably the ask, I guess. The auditorium will be offline when we open, that probably a month-ish, which is okay. The sign will not be finished at the street, so just know we've bought banners, and we're going to hang banners at Ellen Garrison Building at Concord Middle School, because it seems really important. You have a signage out front, even if it's not the formal sign. It's just going to be great.
That's great.
Great.
Yeah. And then we'll quickly move over to phase 2 and start emptying Peabody and Sanborn. The movers are moving teachers out the afternoons of February 10th through 13th. So the hope is their stuff gets moved before they have the PD on the 14th, and they can just set up their things in their rooms. So excited by how that's looking like it's going to come together. Teachers are packing and feeling really productive in the time we've given them. They're having no meetings, essentially, for the month of January and February. So they're feeling good.
They have access to the building over break if they want it.
Probably.
Okay.
If you, the certificate.
Probably, if we've got certificate of occupancy and have taken ownership.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the bottom line.
Okay.
And
Otherwise,
just a reminder, like, we're on temporary septic to start, so we're into all of that. Spare you the details. There's just a lot of moving pieces.
It is a huge effort.
It's huge.
It's huge. And obviously, it's possible, but even when the high school did it, it was one building. You have 2 buildings going into one,
Yeah.
which is different. And
Yeah.
kids are different. Even, I mean, I remember back to the high school, you probably do too. Some kids, they were stressed about moving because they really felt connected to their high school.
Yeah.
So, I'm
it
sure
was a big
it's
change. It was big.
Yep.
A lot of complaints about the stairs.
Still are.
great. Still up. It's a 3-mile walk every day to class.
So, lots going on, all really positive and
Excellent.
just a lot.
Hang in there.
Yeah, no, you can see the
Get your
goalpost.
Wheaties.
It's motivating. It's very
Are you
motivating.
letting the kids draw on the walls at Peabody and
I don't know. We talked about it at one point because a lot of places do that as
That
they
was a
leave.
highlight from
Yeah.
my neighborhood when the high school closed.
Just little
There was
graffiti on the
also
way out. Yeah.
feedback, yeah, that they couldn't do in the new school.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a new building.
I know an elementary school that did that.
Yeah.
Only with appropriate.
I'm a little worried about what they're going to
They're going to do.
Pretty
Sign their
scary in
name or
there.
make a wish or.
Yeah, I don't know.
People who had saws, and they were just saws and cutting up the, I was like, what is going on?
So we are opening the buildings up this Saturday morning of the 15th of February, 10 to 12.
Not the new building, the
The old buildings,
buildings.
Peabody and Sanborn. Yeah, the new building, we don't know when the community get in. We're hoping to get the middle school kids in over the break if all things align. So we're starting to publicize that, where almost anything's up for the taking. Because
My CCHS high school desk, my husband like, why did you do that? Put my plants on it outside.
I might need something from the musical room, I don't know.
Oh, my gosh, Tracy, oh, my gosh.
I'm having to stand there and just chuckle at what people think they want to take.
We're going to talk about the surplus. right?
Yeah, that's coming up here, because you have to vote that before we can give it away.
All right.
Do we want to just go to surplus?
Either way. Do we-
Sure,
what-
yeah, if you
Do we
want.
have anything meaty to talk about regarding the solar? I don't see a
Oh,
document.
no, we can talk about, I was just thinking
No,
since
that's
we were
fine, we could go.
transitioning into it.
I just didn't see a document or anything. Did I
Yep.
miss something about the
No,
solar?
it's in the folder. Yeah, I attached it.
In the drive folder.
But it wasn't attached to our agenda, so the public couldn't see it, right? Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
That's kind of my go-to.
It's the draft Jason
yeah.
gave us, not anything that's been edited
fine.
as of yet.
Carrie, I'm sorry. Good, do what you want.
Well, let's just do surplus since we're talking
Yep.
about it.
Sure.
Do you want to talk through that?
Sure, so what you have attached there. It's a lot. Yeah, it's the inventory of the buildings, and you can just be sure you stay in the dispose of column. They combined all the lists of the things they're going to move, but you don't need to worry about that. So it's both material-wise. Bob went over and helped work through the balcony. I'm assuming a lot of you know what the balcony is.
Yes.
Where things go to die at the middle school. We found an eclectic group of textbooks there, so we need to ask you to declare those surplus, and then attached is the very detailed inventory of what we will be disposing of. Again, disposal, a generic word for donating or recycling. But we do need you to vote that so we can keep moving forward.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
Can I just have a question on the yard sale?
That's ignore their comments. They used an old template, so
Oh, okay. So
all you
it's-
care about
it's
is the
not an
disposed
actual
of.
yard sale?
No.
No, okay.
Tracy and I got an email to at least my personal email. I don't know about yours, but someone was asking if we can donate to home goods
Oh, yeah.
before people come and take it. That was a comment I got. I don't agree with it since it's taxpayer money. I feel like people can come and take what they want.
So I could follow up. I'm not sure that it's to household goods. I'm not sure they would take anything.
Yeah, that's
No, yeah.
Given what we have in a school. It's to
yeah.
help people furnish their
Their homes.
homes.
And they're picky. They like
They're very
primo stuff.
been turned away.
Yeah, I
Yes,
know.
we've
Like,
all
what
been
stuff
turned
isn't
away.
nice enough?
Like, you know, it's towels, it's furnishing, but then I was thinking about like the stoves in the food science rooms.
Just so old.
They're commercial.
No, the ones for
Oh, like facts.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know.
Probably from 1950.
Look,
I have to start connecting with them because time will be.
I personally think that it's tax money, so
Right.
taxpayers should have first.
That is supposed to be how it works, yeah.
So, but certainly if it were, does it matter if it's a Concord resident or a Carlisle resident? Because this particular resident is a Carlisle resident. Does it matter? If household goods decided to come on the community day, could they do that? That's just my
You were,
question.
in theory, only opening up to Concord residents who
Concord resident, but if they were
help
Concord
to pay
residents.
for it all?
Yeah.
Wait, is this a person or a company?
It's a
It's a person that volunteers for an organization that's based in Acton.
It's a
So
great.
it's not benefiting,
Great organization.
it's not benefiting Concord or Carlisle people necessarily.
No, it might actually, because I'm not sure who the clients are that go to shop there.
I think we'd have the day on the 15th, so the community had access. And then if somebody wants to give us a contact information, we can start to vet if there's any options there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to keep it. I'm just advocating for the emails that we got. But,
Yeah.
but I personally don't feel like that should be. I think people should take what they want, and then we figure out how to dispose of the
Yeah.
rest.
Yep.
Or donate.
Yeah,
And time will matter because we got to get out of the
No time.
buildings.
yeah.
In no time.
Does someone want to make a motion?
Sure. I move to approve the list of surplus CMS furniture and materials as articulated in the document attached to our agenda.
Second.
Any discussion?
Good luck.
Yeah, seriously. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so CMLP solar agreement about CMS.
Yeah, I think we can just give you a process update
Yeah.
mostly. So Bob and I have looked at it. He started to put together some suggested edits. We're sharing those with Jason Bulger. We sent it to legal counsel for review
Even just to back up beyond that, we received it
December 9th.
December 9th. We had Jason here on December 10th.
Right.
And now we're in the review process before we vote on it, well, before we bring it to the committee.
Yeah, we'll
for a
bring
vote.
you the draft as it's compiled here and feels like it's close to good. But that's going to take us a little bit of time.
Which will either
And is
be,
there any addressing of like battery placement and whatnot in this MOU or no?
Or
Is this
generic
just the panels? We separated them out, if I'm remembering?
No, it's,
It's not ready.
It's-
Battery portion is.
yeah, it's got some reference to the parking canopies that we got to decide if that's staying in or not. Not battery per se. It's more generic in terms of access to equipment and things. It doesn't designate
There are
those
no parking
differences.
canopies currently.
as of right now, no.
no,
They
no
need the
plan.
battery
They
to
need
have
the
the
battery
parking
to have the-
canopies, right? That's the order of operations?
So what's the timing on this? Is there any urgency?
They cannot go to bid on the solar project without this agreement signed off.
Like, they would like to go out to bid now?
They would, and
Okay, I'm just trying to,
I wish we'd had it earlier, because this is a really hard time for us to focus on it, so
right.
trying to keep it moving.
So maybe next time you could just tell us what the important parts of all this are? or
Yeah, I
are
mean,
not.
yeah. I'm hoping we're moving it along, and we've had legal counsel and a pretty good draft for you, but that might be very ambitious in 2 weeks, so,
I think we should plan on the end of February.
yeah.
That's, just given everything that's going on right now.
Right,
What?
right. I mean, you have to open the school.
Yeah, the certificate of occupancy is by far.
That's the priority.
Right.
Yeah.
The February
this is
meeting,
important.
the February meeting is in Boston, right?
The February 26th meeting,
Just remember that Croc Center closes early. We
8
got
o'clock, yeah.
Yeah.
trapped in
Really
that.
That's a
does,
really
yeah.
good
Make it a
point.
really light meeting. I would say March, honestly.
Do
With
March
everything
11th.
that's going on. Don't you think?
I think that's
Go to Croc on
realistic.
March 11th, you mean?
No, no, no.
We're going to
Do
Move
this
that
March
on March
11th.
11th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that meeting, you just
yes,
have to
sorry.
make
I
it.
think that gives you a chance to move into
Yeah.
the building.
And our only intent, I think this is worth saying aloud because I've had a lot of feedback on this. Our only intent is to make an agreement to share the building and the space and the solar. There's been a discussion of whether this committee was looking for financial benefit from the solar. Just putting it out there since it's swirling
And that's
quite a
not been,
bit. That's not
not been our intent.
part of the agreement right now. You'd have to propose something.
We've
I
had,
don't think that's their assumption either, right?
I think they're not sure.
Oh, okay. Okay, we should make that clear.
Yeah, we need another, like, discussion.
Discussion, yeah.
I feel
So
like
maybe at the,
Jason come back?
I was going to say,
He'll come back. He asked if he should come tonight, and I knew we were
No.
a big
the
agenda.
chair, maybe, what's the next February meeting look like?
February 4th.
Your budget hearing and all the warrant votes and all of that.
The 4th of February?
Yeah. The warrant closes the 19th.
Well, the chairs can decide if they can squeeze it in.
Yeah.
'Cause I'd like to just get the big picture clear with them.
Oh, yeah, don't move that meeting. I have to, the parent driver's ed class is that night, so my husband has to take it. Very pleased with that.
We're not moving the February 4th meeting.
Okay. What else?
I think if we were to bring Jason on February 4th, we would still not have a vote on it.
Yeah,
that night.
probably
That would be a
not. No.
discussion.
No.
So I think the vote would, if we were to do that, it would be February 4th discussion, March 11th vote. Does that
Yeah.
seem, okay, all right. Okay.
Thank you guys for this work.
Thanks.
And then the last piece is Bob on the budget transfers.
All right, share this with you. Okay, so CPS budget for FY '25 is, I'm just going to highlight a couple things. The instructional leadership, we've been able to transfer out 207,000. About 165 of that's due to savings from replacement hires and retirements. Some of those happened after we budgeted last year and some over the summer. In addition, about 52 of that is supplies and materials were cut during the year, reduced. Other school services is primarily $155,000 of that $200,000 transfers increase is homeless transportation, which we're monitoring. We did, you might recall, in our town presentation to the town last year in our budget, get a supplemental funding of $76,000. So $76,000 of that was actually provided by the town through the homeless transportation reimbursement from the state to the town. And the remainder of that is special education transportation. There's some smaller items. I mean, the fixed charges is primarily insurance costs, property casualty, liability. The maintenance is really essentially driven by trash, recycling costs. What we've been budgeting is less than the town's been charging us. We've corrected that, but during FY25, so we are seeing some impact this year to that. Fixed assets is down because the timing, the arrival of the buses is later than we had projected, so we're essentially missing a one-year lease payment. And the tuitions is up 50. In addition to that, we anticipate that we're going to have to cover another $163,000 in out-of-district tuitions, which we may use $100,000 of circuit breaker carryover, and then we'll see how things shake out in the other budget lines, whether we have the ability to offset it further. So that's where we are overall, and we are requesting the school committee approve the transfers as presented.
Can I ask a sort of off-topic question? Are we anticipating still having students enrolled from the shelter into the 26 school year? So like they're not gonna, like, I know that our shelter's kind of been like a model of it working well. So I know it's gonna be among the last to close, so that we're not anticipating that anytime soon.
So I talked to the state a few weeks ago. We are not in the first round of closures, but we don't have a definitive timeline. There's still 22 empty rooms there, so they haven't filled those, and it's unclear what's going to happen there. We do, based on what we know at the moment, which feels a little uncertain, but based on what they're telling us at the moment, we will have some students for the fall. We are already talking, especially with Willard, who has 12 staff that are grant funded. We don't have any assurances of that grant money right now, so we're already trying to figure out how to have this crystal ball where we meet students' needs without a definitive timeline or funding stream. So it's going to be tricky, I think, is the...
The governor was pretty strident in her most recent letter.
Yeah.
It's saying that she would like to see some pretty significant changes made, which is kind of a 360 from where we were 2 years ago. So.
Sure, I agree. Yeah, I mean, and just even like some of the community organizations who were curious from their planning perspective, too.
That's what we know right now.
I was kind of asking for that reason.
It is hard. It's hard. Okay. We're definitely seeing families get housing, which is fantastic.
It is fantastic.
So, and much of, and some regionally.
Yeah, regionally.
One in Concord, that was exciting. But regionally, so it's just hard to know.
Okay.
It's just hard to know.
Yeah.
So we're already counting on having to make some guesses here. And just remember, anybody who does start the year with us has the right to stay the rest of the year and be transported back. So if they are here and when we open, it's commitment potentially.
Can I just ask a question about the waste recycling services? That 51,000?
It's trash and waste.
It's trash and waste. And is it because the town changed their service, or the same service, like any?
No, I think they have a method for allocating their costs to the different departments. So we're one, Public Works is another. They can look at us as a department of the town. They changed their formula a couple years ago. I think we were being under allocated. So that's really what's driving it. Our share was, some of it was, the contract came up and got renewed, so there was a price increase. I think it was a 3-year contract.
Okay.
So part of that is price increase, another part of it is the method they're allocating. And, yeah, it is
Would you
significant.
expect that same, I mean, it's a significant increase. Would you expect that in next year's budget? And have
I
you-
budgeted it next
budgeted
year,
it for
so it's
next
not
year,
going to be an
okay.
issue next year.
Okay.
It is a lot of money. We don't get a lot of benefit back in terms of the recycling.
Right,
We just pay for the pickup.
okay,
So.
okay.
There's no reduction with the one school in the amount of waste?
When we go to, it's possible next year, there'll be a little bit.
Just don't know.
We just don't know, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Marginal.
Yeah. I think until we kind of get through a year, I wouldn't necessarily want to budget for that.
No.
Yeah,
There may be also like construction containers where we have some additional
Right.
waste, where we have to throw things out in a roll-off container that
yeah,
is additional.
okay, thanks.
So we got to vote.
Make a vote? Yeah.
So I move to approve the CPS FY25 second quarter budget transfers as written.
Seconded.
Any discussion? No, we just had it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.